hopefully no more than a couple of minutes. I should have everything together from having to deal with stuff in the yard and everything yesterday. I should have my stuff together. So hopefully, if y'all can just give me a couple more minutes, I'll be able to run inside real quick. We can get the podcast started. And we already got TikTok and YouTube up. So shalom to everybody. Welcome. Give me a couple minutes. I'm just going to make sure that we can plug in and we can continue to go. Hold on. Alrighty, let's see if this works. Have a few long distance extension cords. All right, looks like that worked. All right. Thank you for your patience. Shalom, everybody. As always, this Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And we appreciate your presence here today. We thank the Most High for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. For those who need that a little extra something, and we appreciate you so much for being on and supporting her. To Marshawn, Malcolm, Betty, Isabella, and Solomon, Daddy loves you very much. And we're talking about today dealing with abuse. Thank you to the moderators, who we always need. Fortunately, I used to say unfortunately, but people try to do all types of wild stuff on here. We appreciate it. So thank you for being on. We appreciate everybody for taking some time out today to spend with us and to deal with this topic on this rising. So thank you again for being on with us. And we appreciate it. How you doing, Minister Tamara? To everybody on, let's see, Minister Sonia, be safe on your travels. Trinity, Therese, Deja, Ms. Mac, 8 to 8, Tree Living by Water, Ransom, Just Banks, Dark King from the Ireland Army. Okay, what's up, Ireland in the house? Ireland always more than welcome on here. Trying to see if we can get Ireland represented more like we used to be on Kofi_42. There's been a little bit trying to build back up since they took us down a little while ago. How you doing, Jay? How you doing, Krishana? If I said that correctly, Krishana. Amen. So feel free to leave whatever questions, comments, or concerns you have in the question mark box. I don't know if I said hello to Jared, Sister Betty, everybody. Thank you so much. Yeah, the birds sound great in the background. We appreciate to take your time after yesterday. I'm sure you get it together. Yeah. How you doing, Sister Helen? Hopefully healing is continuing. Bronx in the house. All right. Jermaine, how you doing? Tamika, to everybody. T, I'm not sure if I caught every name. Please forgive me if I didn't say your name. Once again, charge it to my head, not to my heart. It's not a thing of I feel any way against you. I'm a human being, and so I am sure to make some mistakes here or there. Thank you for being on once again to everybody. We appreciate it. On the podcast, if you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, we're thankful and grateful. Had to rush a little bit to make sure. Might have to do the same thing depending for other devices. For whatever reason, didn't. I think just maybe being tired or something didn't charge stuff the way we normally would do. Um, Sister Tracy, how you doing? To everybody, to Austral, to Lottie Dottie and everybody, we appreciate your presence again, as usual. And today we want to talk about dealing with abuse, right? We're still on and off, so we still haven't left the gift series altogether, even though we're kind of winding down. Thank you, Stanley, for the compliment. But hello, how you doing, Dawn? But yeah, we want to talk about dealing with abuse today, and it's kind of apropos. Once again, we've had these celebrity abuse scandals and things going on, which is nothing new. Mankind, no matter how rich or famous or infamous somebody is, abuse is something that runs rampant. And it's more than just putting your hands on somebody. It is more than just cussing somebody out. It's more than just talking bad. It is about an idea of cognitive dissonance. Um, One of the things that we got to dive into, we're going to talk about abuse and be accurate, right? If we're going to be accurate, right? Will, Johnny Depp, Jada Pinkett, Amber Heard, those are the ones that are recent. You can talk about Morgan Freeman. You can talk about what's his face? I see his big thick glasses, old white Jewish Woody Allen. Um, uh, I'm like the list goes on. We can talk about people who had those twink parties. The guy who did the X-Men series and was directing those. Um, so many children that get abused. Was it Corey? Is the guy's name Corey Feldman? Who dealt with stuff. Obviously, Macaulay Culkin, who got out of the business because he did not want to be abused, and dealt with stuff that he'll probably never publicly speak on, even though he's hinted at it. How you doing, Sister Nakia? The list goes on and on and on. As far as abuse is concerned, and abuse is cognitive dissonance. Really, it's abnormal usage. And one of the things to create a Nickelodeon, I didn't know. I'd had to check that out. Maybe you can send me something to check out, a link or something I can check out. I didn't know about that. It wouldn't be surprising because abuse runs rampant everywhere, right? No, my hair just grows the way that it grows. It's a pact that I have with the Most High, and I'm comfortable with my hair looking like me. So thank you very much, but I don't need to do anything concerning my hair. Um, right. But we're here to detangle the outlook of people on certain things that can help them in everyday life. So prayerfully, you can look past something that really is powerful, but in all honesty, is superficial, and be able to get something that's in depth. Um, but we and welcome to you. Hello, shalom, peace be upon you. That could be a greeting that you might want to give before you automatically attack people. But when we talk about abuse, abuse is cognitive dissonance. It's abnormal usage, right? Hey, hello, how you doing? Thanks for being on. It's abnormal usage. That's really what it comes down to, which is cognitive dissonance, abnormal usage. Something is designed for something, and we use it outside of its design. Right? That's as far as it goes. Something is designed for something, and we use it outside of its design. How you doing, Sister Marion? And so a lot of us are abusive. Yes, you could say Nazarite. I'm not doing it only because of Nazarite, blood and fellowship and correlation, but you could definitely say yes, I am. But in talking about abuse, abuse is something that is abnormal usage. And a lot of people abuse a lot of things, but we don't think about them as abuse. We don't think about these things being misused as being abusive. How you doing, Sister Deborah? How you doing, Brother Clinton? So a lot of us abuse, for example, we abuse marriage because we don't know that marriage is sex, sex is marriage. Thank you, JFD. A lot of us don't realize that we are abusive as far as eating. We abuse our bodies because you were taught that everything is food. That's at a store, and the reality is a lot of that stuff's not real food, which is why you deal with a lot of different things. Thank you, Swag, for the compliment. Appreciate it. Right. How you doing, Skittles? A lot of us abuse, think about like with food, how many of us get something that's packed with sugar? Um, how many of us are addicted to coffee, addicted to sugar, addicted to, let's even if we slip outside of food, how many people are addicted to compliments? And so we do things for the compliment rather than whether or not they actually deserve the compliment, right? Like we want to make sure people like us, so we do things so that people like us, but we oftentimes therefore get abused. You know, Shalom, how you doing, Minister Anais? Somebody said the rapture already happened. Well, I mean, I don't know. We still here. So, but abuse, and we'll even get into that because people abuse the word of Yah, right? Well, really, I'm talking about people like my father. He'll have like 3, 4 cups of coffee, 20-ounce coffees and stuff like that every day. He actually had to stop putting sugar and stuff in it. But they were trying to figure out, I guess he kind of was naturally, without thinking about it, doing it because it turned out, or at least so they say, he was anemic, right? But he really, you know, um, really wasn't, or well, I don't know. I'll leave that alone. But we get abused. Doctors abuse patients, right? In order to heal you, I have to hurt you, right? Coming from a culture that says if something attacks you, you attack it, rather than saying if something's going on in my body, maybe I need to make sure that the flow of what's going on spiritually, emotionally, physically, etc. You know, um, but we abuse quite a few different things. We abnormally use things. That's what abuse is, and in order to stop abuse, you got to get to the mindset of what an abuser is. An abuser starts off usually being abused in some way, shape, or form, right? Like a lot of times, the abuser starts off, "Hey man, I see you, Minister Nice." That's true, right? A lot of times, the abuser starts off abused, so the abuse is even a generational curse, right? Yeah, hurt people, right? Like the abuser usually starts off. Um, for example, the person who um, is called a player or whatever, the biggest players in the world usually were people who were played. I won't say always. We're not going to make a blanket statement, right? But usually, somebody who you consider to be a player, male or female, um, they will start off where they get their heart messed up real bad, and they make a decision that they will never allow their heart to be in that situation again, even if it means it's at the expense of somebody else's heart. They harden their heart because of the fact that they've been hurt, right? Hurt people have sharp edges. I haven't heard that one before, but that's accurate, right? Um, so this person gets abused and says, "I will, I did everything I could to be structurally sound, to treat people with respect, to show love to others, and I was messed up by people who took advantage of my heart and took advantage of me loving on people and took advantage of me trying to ensure that everybody else was treated with respect." So they say, well, since nobody would respect my heart and respect who I am and respect the love that I have to give and respect the mindset that I have, they say, okay, well, I'm going to have a mindset now to where I'm going to be the one to abuse rather than be abused, right? Coming from a Greco-Roman philosophy, once again, you attack what hurts you rather than make sure that you heal. Thanks for being on part of the community. Thank you for being a part of the community, Nicole. um, and so we deal with that. We're dealing with the mindset of the abuser. You have to comprehend, even when you talk about colonizers and all this stuff, we like to call people and everything, and the social construct called white. Even though we know there's really no such thing as a white person, but we use these terms we've been taught and shown on both sides of whatever spectrum you want to discuss instead of looking at it holistically. Um, Even the Eurocentric mind, from a place that didn't even used to exist that we now call Europe, even that Eurocentric mindset, it comes from protection of self-preservation. But the abuser that's been hurt says that I will hurt people. And that's part of the game that we don't want to talk about. Like the social constructs, the black diaspora, right? We have to heal. So do other people though. And one of the things about the abuser that makes it tough to heal is that the abuser believes they're right to abuse, right? And everybody has a right to do whatever they want. Problem is there's consequences. So the abuser believes that their right to abuse supersedes your sovereignty of you being able to be left alone. And so they abnormally use you. And therefore lies the problem, right? So a lot of the abuse you were dealing with is because people have made up in their mind that they will create a system in which they can be the abuser so that they will never be abused. This is the problem they know, and they don't care or don't see it. Yeah, a lot of times people know that they're the abuser. However, they made up in their mind, I will not. I will be. People call it wolf pack mentality. We talked about that on before. I think that's on the YouTube channel, right? Um, People believe that they have the right to be the abuser, right? And so, since in their mind they have a right to abuse people, right? They have this wolf pack mentality. That's what people call it today. Alpha male, don't be a beta, don't be a sigma, don't be an omega, don't be a delta, don't be whatever all these different things are. Um, right? However, people don't comprehend, like, you are being abusive. If it's abuse, if it was done to you, then it's abuse when it's done to somebody else. But once again, they're living by that cognitive dissonance because they believe they should be in control. So you got to comprehend France, England, Normandy, which becomes part of France, but we forget some of these places that actually existed. Russia, Prussia, Croatia, um, Portugal, Spain, if I didn't say so already, um, Scotland, Wales, all these different places, they fought against each other. But these were families that fought against each other. If you know the royalty and who was in royal power. How you doing, Mayhew? Right? They've been they've been they were in power, but they were all cousins. They were all family members. These were family members that fought against each other. And whenever they were nice, right, as the rulership of one country, here comes their own family coming to attack them. Right? Here comes their own family. What keeps me going? Changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voices, speaking the unspoken, and making sure that we as a diaspora and therefore everybody else around the world, through us being healed, can be healed. That's what keeps me going, right? When we're talking about abuse, abnormal usage, you got to comprehend that these people that we want to label as the problem for everything that's ever happened in life, this Eurocentric mindset, this romantic Roman antic mindset, this Greco-Roman, this Greeks and Romans coming together to continue the same thing, that we keep on going and going and going. Thank you, ATA, appreciate it. These are things that these are things that were pushed. They were fighting against each other for survival. You got to comprehend, when people use the term racism, we don't like to break down words. We don't like to look at etymology. We don't like to use things in their basic form because we don't like roles. As we talked about yesterday, roles roles are basic, right? So we don't like roles, and therefore we have basic problems because we don't, and we can't get past basic problems because we don't like roles. But you have to see the role that people were in. Racism, first and foremost, the word race is in it. What if I were to tell you, if I were to tell a child before they comprehend fully all the stuff about black, white, Latino, uh, Asian, whatever place we want to lump people into, Indian, Mediterranean, Caucasian, Native American, indigenous to Australia, all these different things, right? Polynesian, Austronesian, Melanesian, Japanese, Chinese, whatever the case might be, right? Taiwanese, Mongolian, etc. Before, right? Vietnamese, all these different things, Korean, well, now North Korean, South Korean, even though you're the same people, right? People don't want to talk about the fact that, like, race before a child, if you would come to a child, if I would go to my, if I had a 2-year-old baby and I said, we're going to get in a race, that 2-year-old baby does not think black, white, etc. Somebody had to teach us that, right? Somebody had to teach us that. Willie Lynch syndrome, we talked about that at the end of yesterday, right? For about an hour or so. Somebody had to teach us race was something else. But race started off as a competition. If I were to say to the 2-year-old, let's get in a race, we would get ready to run. How you doing, Miss Modesty? If I were to say to an athlete, let's get in a race, they would say, okay, let's go. On your mark, get set, go, right? If I would say to somebody who's in a race, You know, if I say, hey, let's get in the race, right? But race was a competition, and you had a bunch of countries, and it goes even before. It's not just Eurocentric. It happened in Asian countries. It happened in African countries. It happened amongst the indigenous to the Americas, those in Turtle Island, right? Some of our people who were in Turtle Island, you know, those who were in Central America, right? That's why you had the Aztecs and the Incas and all these different people fighting against each other, right? This is not. We once again, I'm not saying we have to recognize racism is a social construct that's been created and it does exist and has some really very hard problems that come with it. But what in fact is a race, right? If you're talking about abuse, you have to recognize that these people come from a situation where they were abnormally using universal principles or they themselves abnormally used. Don't forget Kemet when everybody talks about Kemet, and I'm all about chemistry, right? And thanks for being on, Dove's Cry. I appreciate you. I'm all about chemistry. Well, nationalism is not a war, but if you want to go to war because of nationalism, you can, right? Like, you know, I haven't fought anybody, but some would consider, and I wouldn't be mad at it per se, that if they might say I'm a Israel nationalist or a black nationalist or you know, a Shui, West African nationalist, if you will. But you know, we got to get into words. Like, so race is a competition. These people were competing and fighting. You people of what we now call Europe, they were trying to outbeat the other people. How you doing, Minister Select Morel? So we had this race, right? This race. Even the word, what is it that people say? Chauvinist. We did a little thing on that. A lot of people don't know that the word chauvinism has nothing to do with male or female. I mean, now people say male chauvinism, but chauvinism just means patriotism. Chauvinism talks about a specific man of French, Chauvin, I believe, and he was somebody who was so much about Napoleon that he's become a person of legend. He was basically abused, but he was of a mindset that the abuse was okay. And so he tried his best to abuse others with his patriotism, and it kind of was a joke. And so that's why chauvinism is considered to be something that's bad. But we'll even use a term like chauvinism, having no clue what it means, right? Thanks for being part of the community. That girl, is it that girl Akira? I believe. Yeah, abuse is what? Abnormal usage. I'm not using things correct because I don't know. So race is a competition. You had these people in competition and they were enslaving one another. Just like, don't forget in Kemet and Cush are brothers. They're the same family. Cush came first. That's the older brother. Kemet then goes down the Nile River. You would call it up because you're into north and south and you don't know that the map has been flipped upside down. That's why that term Le Monde à l'envers, or the world has been flipped upside down, or West Prince, West Prince, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. You know, it even has it in the song. That term actually comes from something where the world was literally turned upside down. There's maps you could look at to where Europe is on the bottom, right, and South Africa and Antarctica are at the top. How you doing, Butterfly Effect? So a lot of people don't realize that we're using these things, and so we're abnormally using things. We don't recognize. We just go up. Colonization is only for white. But if you're in the kingdom of heaven, you believe in colonization because you believe that you're supposed to spread the kingdom. Some of you still use Germanic terms that really are not biblical, but you know somebody wrote them in, so you would say it like spreading the gospel, right? Like you're supposed to colonize. If you're in a kingdom, you are supposed to, watch this, you're supposed to gentrify. The problem is not that others have gentrified. The problem is that we have not ever thought, should we gentrify and have something of our own anymore, because we fought so hard to be included and get out of being segregated that we forgot that in the midst of coming out of being segregated, that we forgot that we still had a mentality that we were what? To be abused. We still had a mentality that the white man's ice tastes better. And I'm telling you, not something I say, right? That's a term that a lot of us grew up. If you black, you probably heard that term before somewhere, or somebody that knows you, I bet has heard that term, because that's a real thing that used to happen where people used to say, hey, why are you supporting this? Why don't you support your own people? Why don't you show love to others? This and that or whatever. And people would say the white man's ice tastes better. It was their way of saying what's on the other side of the tracks is always going to be better than what's on yours. And that's why still today in Africa, right, we're having this thing where people are doing it less, but still today in Africa, people are leaving Africa because others have messed it up. And then now, even though Africa is doing way better and is keeping their own materials and is trying to grow their own business and stuff, people go to other countries and then they turn around. You go to the Ukraine, and in the Ukraine, people who are fleeing the Ukraine, Black people aren't being let out, and when they are let out, even in the United States of America, right? Check out your check out your news program, right? Read your Bible, bless you. Watch the news and watch it, in all sincerity, right? And watch it for what it is. This social media, a medium trying to give you witchcraft, somebody a witch trying to give you from one place to another, trying to show you something, right? And watch it for what it is, and they'll tell you like, oh yeah, Biden just told you he's gonna let um and I just learned this in all honesty because I've been paying attention, right? But he's going to let Ukrainians come in and they can just fly in and they don't have to go to the border because they don't want them to do what Mexicans have to do to be able to get into the country, right? But anybody African who flies in, they fly in your behind right back to Africa, even if you were never raised in Africa, because they recognize you as an African, right? There's always been a competition throughout the story of mankind for everybody, right? Ireland and Wales and Scotland are still owned, at least Ireland only partially, but the other one's still owned by England. England is still there, right? England is still in Ireland. Northern Ireland is not Ireland. The Irish don't want Northern Ireland there. Or they want Northern Ireland to become part of Ireland. If you know there's a Northern Ireland and Ireland, that is because that England still has their mitts all over something else, right? So the competition is about power. The race dynamic became about color so heavy when all of a sudden they realized that black people can do things that others can't do, like not making us to be that we have to be better than everybody else. I'm talking about we can be in the sun longer than other people. We're melanated, so there's certain things that we can do as far as nature and things like that, or as far as healing, after a certain day, right? Like, so when people found this out, they said, oh, okay, well, we got to figure out to make it all right to make these people slaves. And they taught everybody, including people by the social construct of white, that race is now about black people. So there's the black race and the white race, but there was no such thing. Matter of fact, they had to teach you there was a such thing as the color white, because white never has been a color. White up until recently in the log of what we call his story, not our story, but his story, when they made up this thing called white. White used to just mean bright or opaque, right, or absent of color. So how can you have a color white? That's why when you have crowns, right, and if you're coloring something on a white piece of paper, you don't use the color white unless you mess around and you accidentally get some actual color on something and you want to white it out. Then you might use the color white to either lighten it or hopefully get it all the way out. But you don't use the color white on a white surface because you don't need to color something that already has no color. Or you don't have to discolor something. It doesn't make sense. But we were taught these things. We were taught myths. There is no person, I don't care how albino they are, right? There's really technically no person that walks on the planet, even if they look like it. There really technically is no person that walks on the planet that is white, because you can't see through them, or they're not so bright that the sun, cannot come through or whatever, be blocked out. Instead, you see near an airport and AFB, watch flights daily, be in the city consistently, and you notice them. Yeah, like these are things that are happening right now, though. So we are in a situation where there's abuse that goes on so often that we don't even recognize it as abuse, because the abuser gets used to abuse. You said beer is yellow. I'm not sure exactly what the question is on that, Jan's Loot, if you can explain. I don't know how to answer, really. You said it's time to stop letting others who don't care about us tell us who we are for real. Yeah, like the abuse. See, once again, though, you got to comprehend the abuser knows they're abusive. The abuser, however, believes that as long as they can do, like, here, watch this. Abusers do this all the time. Abusers gaslight. And how do you gaslight somebody? I'm sorry, you said Jamaicans have to get approved to leave. Yeah. And Jamaicans don't even get to have hospitals. I talked about the other day. A lot of people don't know that, like, Jamaica is short on hospitals, and they can't build another one because they still have to ask permission from people in England. But you would think that Jamaica was free in the 1960s, right? My grandmother would have been somebody who would have stood up with pride as the Jamaican national anthem for the first time would have been played, her anthem, so she thought. But no, Jamaica's not free. How you doing, Miss Mac? How you doing, Beverly? Sorry for saying so late. Okiere. Oh, Akieri. I don't know if I'm saying that rightly. Danso. Sorry. Thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the community. Mohammed, I love. Is it Olivia? Olivia? Mohammed. I still don't know how to pronounce the first name. Right? Like you got to get to a place to where you have to recognize that if you're in an abusive relationship long enough, even if you know the abusive relationship is bad, you will still try to live within the abusive relationship. And we don't believe that it's okay to get out of abusive relationships because, I promised before God that I was going to make this relationship work. I mean, you can make it work. And if you feel like you don't want divorce, fine, but you ain't got to stay in the house. Right. But you got it right. And the person who's the abuser, they do this to this day. They gaslight. And when you gaslight, what they do when they gaslight, they try to use what they've told you as statistical data. You say, can I educate you on Jamaica? Not okay. Well, hello to you, sad boy. I'm not. Oh, I'm not sure. 100. Okay. Are you saying just? Oh, okay. I guess you're just saying that what I just said about what others are doing to Jamaica is not okay. I didn't comprehend the context. I'm sorry. I don't. Sometimes we get trolls on here, so my mind flips back and forth. I apologize. That was a genuine question. Please forgive me. Betty, you said your dad says that all the time. Yeah, you have to recognize that people that have been abused or came up in abuse, they realize it's okay, and so they start giving you statistical data, right? If you, that's how they gaslight you. They use statistical data wrongly, by the way, because to gaslight somebody, you have to lie. But remember, every great lie, see abuse, we got to see the mindset of an abuser. Every great lie by anybody, especially an abuser, abusers know this. Can I be honest with you? Can I be honest? I used to be a really great liar. And one of the reasons why I disrespect lying and I hate lying, and I won't say I hate liars, but I hate lying. I don't like liars though, is because I know what it is to be able to spin something very well for evil, because that's all it is I'm telling a lie for evil intent. you know so a great gaslighter, I didn't know that this was something I did when I was younger, especially in my teens and even my early 20s. I say even up to like 25 or so, because my father might have been my father didn't just spank me just because. My father would spank me when necessary, but he would go too far, right, when he did. So I was always afraid of getting a punishment for what I did. So I learned how to lie at an early age, and I became very adept at it, very great at it. And I even used it, and it messed up relationships, it messed up friendships, it messed up, um, stuff with uh, even though I never lied to them per se, but even, you have to go back and apologize to your children for things that come out, that people were hurt by you and this and that because of things you did even when you were a little child. Like, lying is a terrible thing. And, you have to recognize that that's what gaslighting is, and people use statistics. They use statistical data. That's the culture. I'm sorry. Hello, Dennis. Ms. Max said after the abuse, they come back with flowers and apologies. Yep. It's a cyclical. The abuse always comes back. Yeah, because you have to change. We say the heart. You got to change the passion. The word heart is the passion. You said deceiving others for your gain. It does mess up relationships. Yeah, you know, and you can only at that point, you know, ask for forgiveness of others, ask for forgiveness of the Most High, and forgive yourself. And then you have to go through the process of proving that your heart has changed. A lot of people just say, forgive me, right? But that's what an abuser does. If you're an abuser, but you're trying to change, the abuser will not only say, forgive me, the abuser will start to say, what actions can I put in place to change things, right? The abuser, watch this, the abuser, unless it's been years and years and years and the abuser's been showing and showing and showing, right? This, that's the only way that what I'm about to say is disqualified. But an abuser should never be in a position in which unless they get to come to the abused and they get to tell the abused why, right? Like why it was okay for them to be abusive, right? Being angry, you have a right to be angry. Being upset, you have a right to be upset. Yelling at somebody, you have a right to yell at somebody. Walking away from a situation, you have a right to walk away from a situation to get yourself together and then tell the person, hey, I need a break, I'm gonna come back, right? But to abuse, abnormally use somebody, the abuser should never come to the abusee, if you will. I know I'm probably making up a term here, but you get the context. They should never walk back up to the person they've been abusing and start telling them all the statistical data that allows for their abuse. But abusers do that. That's where you get terms like black on black crime from. You said, is Christianity a white man's religion? Um, well, Christianity can be anybody's religion, and the word religion we don't use properly, but I get what you mean as far as, what they do as a legion of people, I guess you could say technically as a religion, repetitively what a legion of people do. Um, but the Bible existed before Christianity. Different versions of it existed, different sects of it existed. As a matter of fact, different Bibles that people read, NIV versus the King James, they come from different belief systems concerning that all came before Christianity. You got to go to Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholicism really don't pick up as far as especially having power like that. If you want to go to the power dynamic, Roman Catholicism doesn't even start happening to the 400s. It doesn't even get power as far as like they themselves saying we have enough power to start usurping our authority over others. They don't even start doing that to the 500s. That's 538 AC, right? Where they give the Justinian decree. Justinian actually started killing people off for him and stuff and gave him power in the 400s and gave them the western part of Rome. And he dealt with the eastern part of Rome. So Christianity is something that is way newer than anything that's kingdom oriented. The Bible itself, if you only go off the 66 books, especially, but the Bible itself, for a heavy majority of it, is something that predates Christianity. But once again, that's abuse, abnormal usage of something. I'm sorry, you said sadly we become loyal to our abusers and actually feel guilty for standing up for ourselves. Yeah, it's a form of Stockholm syndrome. You said I think you have pain of the hate around you. You're talking about the abuser? Yeah, or you're talking about myself, or maybe you're talking about the abusee, I guess. You said there's no black on black cream. Bad is bad. I guess crime. Well, yeah. Well, what I'm saying is the abuser comes up with the term black on black crime. Like people by the social construct of black. Do you think we came up with the term black on black crime? Of course not. The abuser did. The abuser said, "Hey, look at you guys. You guys kill yourselves off because you're near each other." And so and then what they said is, see, so don't tell us about our abuse. Make sure, right? Now, is black on black crime or because white on white crime is just as rampant as black on black crime. How you doing, Grand Rising Lynn? Right? Like if black on black crime is a thing, then surely white on white crime is a thing. If black on white crime is a thing, then surely white on black crime is a thing. If Latino on Latino crime is a thing, then surely, right? If men abusing women is a thing, then surely women abusing men is a thing. Matter of fact, statistically, we know that there's probably more women, whether it's physical or not, but even physically, there's probably more women statistically that abuse men, at least in the Western world, right? But it might even show itself all over the world. But there's statistically speaking, there's more than likely, we don't know for sure, but more than likely, there's more women that actually abuse men than abuse women. But physical abuse, there are going to be more men who are going to be locked up for it than women, because it's very hard in society for us to wrap our minds around men being abused. And I'm not going to speak on it because I'm not going to bring the person's name out, unless something ever comes out publicly. I'm not here to publicly shame anybody, but way before I met Maya, there's somebody I was with, and I dealt with abuse to levels that I won't speak on here. But when you look back on it, I told my wife about it or whatever, and my wife was almost like, frustrated. She's like, yeah, I'm done with this person. If I ever see him, blah, blah, she ain't ever been around him or nothing like that. And prayerfully they never will. But, I hadn't even told her about it because I had locked it down somewhere. And, but even with that happening to me personally, I still, because the way society is, I still have this thing where if a woman says she's abused and the man says he's been abused, I don't believe the man. And I have to remind myself real quick, wait a minute, he could be telling the truth. I'm not here to say that we shouldn't listen to any women that say anything, right? We shouldn't listen to any woman that says she's been raped. We shouldn't listen to any woman sorry, I'm not supposed to say that word that much. Any woman that's gone through that type of abuse, any woman that's gone through being hit, any woman that says whatever, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but we don't recognize, even when it comes to abnormal usage, that not everybody's a wife that masquerades as one, right? There are women that are wolves in sheep's clothing too. Everybody's surprised about the Johnny Depp thing, right? But it's like when you look at it, it's very clear. And then what I saw that opened my eyes up to some of this stuff when I started listening and watching a little bit of this to catch up, I started seeing that there were people who had videos where they were showing that Johnny Depp had actually, all the stuff he's saying on the stand now, he was saying it over years, even in public. He was out there saying out in public all these different things. He was literally coming out saying stuff in public, like he was interviewed after I think one of the Pirates movies, and they were like, "How are you doing?" And his face changed, and he actually couldn't help himself. He says, "You know what? Um, I'm scared. I'm frustrated. Um, I don't really want to go home, and I need help." And then the interviewer thinks that he's just, saying something funny. So he starts laughing, and then all of a sudden his face changes. They realize where he starts laughing again. Like, he did that multiple times, and nobody ever thought to themselves, maybe this man might actually be telling people he really genuinely doesn't know what to do. And we'll even do this thing. Well, just because you're older, the older abuse the younger. He's the 50. And look, he messed around and started messing with somebody young who showed signs they probably weren't about him. But when they got together, he was the 50 or close to 50 or whatever he was. And she was the one that was in her 20s. So it's not even just old versus young, like he's a guy on drugs, drugged out, left the woman that he was with for 14 years, I think, or something like that, had children with and everything because he was out of his mind. Here comes this woman that sees him out of his mind, and she starts to abuse him. And in his abnormal usage of drugs, he opened the doorway, right? This is a key. In his abnormal usage of drugs and his abnormal usage of things, he opened the doorway to somebody who could abnormally use him. I'm sorry, somebody said women give mental abuse until a man can't take it anymore and gets physical. That can happen at times, sure. Not always, but it can happen at times. How you doing, Yara Yara? Thank you, thank you. But we don't recognize that. We don't think about that. We don't honor that. We don't credit that because in our mind we've been in the system that says that abnormal usage only meets a certain criteria. But anything abnormally used is abuse. Right? Like, here's an example. This is something that I got from Miles Monroe a while ago, right? Um, um, if you were to take a Q-tip, and I do this all the time, right? So I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying it's a sinful thing and all of that. I'm just saying it's an example to help us. If you were to take a Q-tip and put it in your ear and use it to clean your ear, whenever you buy Q-tips, it says on the package that this is not designed for your ear. It legit says that on the package. It is not designed for your ear. But if you go to a pharmacy or if you go to a store and you're looking in a certain aisle, they'll have it near products that help you with your body a lot of times. But the Q-tip was not designed for your ear. Still is not. Right? That cotton can come out in your ear, a lot of things, but they started making them stronger and stronger and stronger because they were like, okay, I guess people are going to use them for the ear no matter what. But the people come out, even though, so they're making money off it. They know that people are abnormally using it, but they keep telling you, they keep giving you a warning. They keep saying, look, man, we'll make us as strong as we can. We'll do this. But if something happens to you, we got right there on the label, this is not what it's used for. And yet people do the same thing in their life, right? It's clear as day. This is not wife material. This is not somebody who's pre-qualified to be a husband. You start sleeping with them. Sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. The law tells you that in order for marriage to be real, it has to be consummated. You start doing all this stuff. And then before you know, you go, how did this happen? How did this happen? Because you abnormally use something. That's not what that person is designed for. That's not what you're designed for. You're not designed to have, 25 partners in a year. Right? You're not designed to be. There are people out there talking about their body count. Just my body count, and that literally means how many women I slept with, which means that body count. You're associating death with sex, like you're abusing a principle. You said because it pushes wax back further in your ear. That too. Right? There's ways to use it to where it's not going to push the wax. Right? Like you can twist it and do certain things, and you can actually pull certain things, especially if the wax is healthy. But I'm just saying, like, people are talking about body count. This how many girls I slept with, and blah blah. And you're considering something that's supposed to be fully alive and help you to flourish, and you out here what? You out here talking about it as if it's something that's dead, but you feel, or I feel dead inside. You know why people be saying I'm dead inside or this stuff, or after I had sex with her, and I realized, they call stuff post nut clarity. Like these are terms people legit use. I busted a nut and I had post nut clarity, and it caused me to see that this woman wasn't for me. Well, you should have known she wasn't for you if she wasn't wife material for you. Hello, Shalom. How you doing? Mashallah. Okay. Hopefully everybody's doing well. And Tadach Yasrael, thank you for being on today. And even Tadach to everybody, to those who are on that aren't, right? Marriage is sacred. Is this the topic? No. We're talking about abuse, abnormal usage. But marriage is something we talk about quite often because marriage is a cornerstone of community. Every community deals with marriage, even if they deal with perverted versions of marriage. Every community needs their marriages to be strong. Do you know, in America, we were at 52, 53, 55, somewhere in there percent before 2020 happened, of divorce rate in America. And that's whether you were in an assembly, if you were in a church, if you were in a mosque, if you were in a temple, whatever. That's what your percentage of marriage was. But do you know, when you go to other cultures, especially Eastern cultures, the percentage of divorce there is 7%. 7%. That's exactly. It's a basic foundation, it's a basic principle. It's 7%. Now you dealing with now after COVID happened, everything went up. Divorce rate went up to 75%. Because people don't know what marriage is and they don't know who they are. And they're used to being an abusive, and they're used to abnormally using people, and they're used to being abnormally used, right? Like people will get into marriage and start talking about my child is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. My child is what I live for. How you doing, Rhonda? My child is who I live for. My child is what I'm trying to be. My child is what I do this. What about your spouse? What about your husband? What about your wife? Your child will grow up and leave and get a spouse for themselves. Why are you devoting yourself to something that's temporary when your marriage is till death do us part? Why do we do that? Right? Yeah, you see things different when you come out of abusive behavior. Yeah. We were in abusive behavior. People why do so many people get divorces at 50? I'll tell you why. Because you said you loved each other, you got married, everything was fine, you had a 20-something year relationship and everything. And in the midst of that, you started realizing after about your children were around, and about 5 years in, you started realizing, well, I don't really spend any time with my spouse. I don't do this, I don't do that. But they say, well, you know what, whatever, I'll keep this going, and my children love me. And really what you mean by that is you can control the dynamic. You don't have to honor their love language and stuff, and they still have to give you love. So you can even kind of sort of be abusive with them, but it's like, but you won't honor, your spouse. Your spouse needs their love language met, you won't give it to them. And you need your love language met, they won't give it to you. But y'all are both great parents. That's what y'all say, children come first. It's all about the children. Why? Because they didn't ask to be here. So because they didn't ask to be here, the person who you guys made a commitment to, the death do you part, doesn't deserve the death do you part stuff, but your children deserve death till death do you part. They didn't ask to be here. You hear people say that a lot, right? It's abusive. It's abnormal usage. We don't think of it like that, but that's what's happening. You're abusing your spouse because you put them in a position they don't even belong in. You said this is why most relationships don't last, because people don't know each other. And once they're gone, I didn't catch the rest. And once they're gone, so too many only stay married for the children's sake. Yeah. And that's why when the children get older, they out. The parents out. I don't need to be around here no more. Thanks for being part of the community, K-Man. Like, I don't have to be around here anymore. I did my job. My child, they go into college, right? I noticed, we used to call it back in the day. I wouldn't call that anymore, but used to call it, I was a godparent, and they were twins. And these young ladies, teenage twins, were always over our home. And they got older as they were around us and stuff and things like that, and started trying to wild out and stuff. And we were the ones to reel them in, but we found out that the parents were not doing what they were supposed to do. Right? So the parents were already had this open relationship, made sure the children didn't, or so they thought the children didn't know about it, this and that or whatever. It was affecting the child. It was affecting the children. So the children were growing up abused. But the parents thought, oh, well, they don't know about it, or we're not out here doing this, so we're going to stick around. And their goal was, the mother told us that basically once the deal, because we didn't really deal with the father too much. He was always out somewhere. But, the goal was supposed to basically be they make it to the children got to college. And once they get to college, they'll tell the children they're going to get a divorce. A lot of parents do that. That's a normalcy, unfortunately, right? And even though I'm not necessarily pressed about college, do whatever you feel you need to do for what you call to do, right? However, children that are going through all that stress, then they get this added stress on top of that, and now everything I thought was real was a lie. I know somebody else, you know, father is a pastor. Um, he grew up young, became a minister like 14, 15, 16 years old, somewhere in there. Even if he wasn't officially one, I know he was always preaching since he was like basically a preteen. Um, grew up around all this stuff. Come to find out that his mom and his dad were looking at divorce, and basically told him right before he's about to get married himself. He got betrothed. He got affianced, if you will. He became a fiance, and then all of a sudden, okay, we're going to tell you that we're going to get a divorce since you're getting ready to graduate college. And it's like, yo, like I'm about to get married, this and that, or whatever. I've been preaching, doing all this stuff. What do you think that does to that young man's faith? You said your parents separated after you went to college? Yeah, I mean that's tough. That's abusive. We just don't think about it as such, but you're abnormally using. So now that child who looked up to you, who thought that you were using them to do this and teaching them to do this and do all these things, come to find out you were abnormally using them because you don't even believe in marriage. You don't believe in death do you part. How you gonna walk me down the aisle? And then the same pastor was the one that married his son and the person. And so a lot of people didn't know what was going on, but a lot of us that showed up who knew, well, I don't know, a lot of us, oh, a few of us, only a few of us really knew. I was in the loop because of some things and some, personal relationship I had with them, but you get invited and showed up and stuff, and they were, at our wedding and stuff. So I show up, and support. But as I'm supporting this new couple, I'm sitting there looking at the person who's giving them the advice and probably been giving them marital coaching and counseling or whatever. And I'm like, huh, like this is a little, you know, you said your parents go through this and fully right, moved out and it's all clear. Yeah. Like this. And so we're dealing with abuse, the mind of an abuser. How do you deal with abuse? You're living in an abusive situation. When you go outside and the very place that tells you that if you sell cigarettes on the corner, we can choke you out and you'll die, is the very place that says you shouldn't take a knee to make sure that you tell people you have a problem with somebody being choked out. That you're living in abuse. We can try to shift it to whatever we want. You said no proper understanding of marriage. Most aren't even approved. Yeah. And definitely not pre-approved, Minister Select Morel, for real. Right? Like have no idea of this stuff. You said I was singing because popular people do sinking letters, but this life I wish you all love. Popular people do sinking letters. Okay, I don't know what that is. Right. But you know, a lot of we don't recognize what's going on, and people are dealing with abuse all the time. You talking about like crossword puzzles and stuff, I guess. Sinking letters. I guess talking about people do. I don't know. I guess you were trying to tell me something in depth. I just couldn't catch it. But thank you for maybe it'll click with me later. Excuse me, I said letter later. Right. But a lot of people don't recognize. And so people are still trying to figure out the prism. Like people are still trying to figure out how to have a mother and father in their life. And they didn't grow up with a mother and father. You grew up abusive. Right. Okay. Well, I don't know what the sinking letters thing is, but that's okay. Right. Um, and they grew up in an abusive situation. We just don't think it's abusive. We think it's not abusive because somebody didn't get smacked or somebody didn't get cussed out. You know how many women? Because the number one need of a wife, and thank you, appreciate it. Right, the a lot of people don't recognize that the number one need of a wife, right, or of a woman in general, of a little girl, is what? Is security. So if a little girl grew up insecure, she was abused to get to that place of insecurity. And people don't like that because then you start hearing stuff like from your favorite people that abuse each other, Will and Jada and people like that. It's not people loved it when Will Smith said, "It's not my responsibility to make you happy." Well, I'm not ultimately responsible for your happiness, but then again, let's not forget that I can cause you happiness and I can cause you sadness. But people don't want, like we talked about yesterday, to take on roles, because to take on a role properly means you have to be accountable for the role that you take on. I'm sorry, Jasmine said my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles all had long, solid marriages. All were happy except one. But that's great. That's not everybody's story, so that's great. There must be something. There's some kind of, and I would assume that they probably are very great on making sure their roles are defined, right? Making sure that love is there, making sure that they're dedicated to the person, have love for the children, but children aren't going to come before, right, the marriage, because the marriage is what makes us stuff strong. And I don't know. I'd have talked to him, and probably you have maybe have to talk to him in depth on some things, or maybe you have. You said it happens to you. It takes something away that can never be replaced. Yeah, and it's we're talking about abnormal usage, abuse, endurance, even the ability to endure. We were talking about this for those taking ministerial training with Minister Select Morel, Minister Select Joseph, and Minister Select Sharon. Congratulations to all three of them for starting. We also have Minister Select Omar, who's in the midst of doing his training and stuff as well. Um, but we have a lot of people who don't recognize what's going on, and we're not thoughtful about what's going on. Um, we grow up in abuse so much that we are defined by our abuse. We're okay with being abused, and we become defined by our abuse. We we have literally defined ourselves by abusive relationships. We've found it all right to be abused for so long that we don't really have too much issue with it, right? We don't really have too much issue with being abused. We've defined ourselves by it. How you doing? I choose truth. Thanks for being on Grand Rising. Said dad left the family when his wife died. Oh wow, okay. So we're so used to it, and sometimes we've been abused so much, like, and you got to comprehend most of this behavior that we're going on is just dealing with abuse. People are trying to figure out how to deal with abuse. Will Smith, Chris Rock situation, read his book. He's trying to deal with abuse. Now the stuff is coming about Jada doing things behind the scenes and all this stuff. And if you already knew about what was going on, you could read the tea leaves already. But he's been dealing with abuse, but so has she. But they agreed to it. When you get on public, or well, not television, what is Red Table Talk? Is that on Facebook or something? Whatever that is. When you get on there and you say bad marriage for life in front of the world, you've said that we're okay with abusing each other. I'm sorry, you said, but if you are one in a marriage, then it's not just their happiness. Yeah, it's your own too. So you're kind of responsible. You're responsible for your own happiness. Amen. Yeah, people don't think men get abused. We talked about that earlier, right? Very true. Marcano or Marsano, or probably Marcano. Thanks for being on. Marcano. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Please. Doing well. Thanks for asking. So we have to recognize these things. We have to recognize what's going on, right? We have to recognize these things. You talking about BPD, is it borderline personality disorder or something like that? So we got to recognize what's going on, and um, even all these disorders and everything. Like we got to recognize, like, even if somebody's not healthy, do you know that that's usually due to abuse of your body? If a woman has situation where she has fibroid cysts, it's abuse of her body. Her body has to make a decision whether to heal it. Or her body needs to function. Your body can't function and be dealing with the fact that it can't heal at the same time. So the woman's body says, "Okay, I'll do something that is a band-aid situation for now, but I'm not going to clean the wound. So whatever's underneath the band-aid or the fibroid cyst is still going to be growing and growing and growing." That's basically what happens. You're dealing with the physical manifestation of something that happens spiritually, emotionally, physically, psychologically, etc. Oh, okay, from Trinidad. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Trinidad, how you doing? So we have this really weird thing. Contact information. If you're on TikTok, just go on TikTok and look up, where our stuff is on TikTok, and text us if you've been trying to call. The calls don't always necessarily come through directly to me, or sometimes they can take a while the way our thing is set up. But if you give us a text at the number, but if you're on TikTok, just simply go click on the website on our main page, and you should be able to get through. But I will try to post this briefly on TikTok. If you're on YouTube or on the podcast, you can just look in the description box, and you should be able to find ways to be able to get in contact with us. But I'll try to post real quick stuff to get in contact with us, or for somebody else to be able to get in contact with you. If I can't, I am extremely busy. So, I was just literally having a meeting about this a couple days ago, where we had an impromptu meeting because I was telling people I need help. We're growing, we're doing a lot of things all over the place, and my wife and I, we're just one person, so we can only do so much together to bless everybody. We are not Alaham, right? Do I believe in pre-existence and choose life situations? You talking about as far as abuse, or you're talking about as far as getting into the word? No, about the spirit. I mean, that's because we're focusing on abuse today, but I mean, I can try to help a tiny bit. Thanks for being part of the community, Jan Salute. So that's the information above my head. Text that number, 410-714-5078. Look for us at Kofi-Footy.com. Look us up at hashtag Find Kofi. Heck, put hashtag Find Kofi in Facebook too. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I'm not on Twitter and Instagram that much, but you can IG, Twitter, and at least, DM or something like that. But just look up hashtag Find Kofi. Look it up on YouTube. Look it up on Google hashtag Find Kofi, and find a way to put in the comment section somewhere, and I'll try my best to contact you as soon as I can. But yeah, we just came out of Passover season, so Passover season interesting. Well, if you need to talk to my wife about herbs and things like that, once again, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, or Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish, BLOOMNFLOURISH, or contact us and ask for info, and we'll make sure that we give you a number where you can directly get in contact with them. Ama, thank you. So yeah, and you can even email her at bloomandflourish1, the number one, bloomandflourish1 at gmail.com. Alrighty, so hopefully everybody's got the information above my head. If you're on TikTok, you take a screenshot. 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled programming, if you will, and speaking on today, abuse. And a lot of people are living inside of abnormal usage, and that's really what it boils down to. We are so used to things being abnormally done. Matter of fact, we are so used to things being abnormally done that when somebody shows you normalcy, you usually freak out a little bit. You said, I know someone with bipolar disorder, and it's hard, but I know self, and I know where it comes from in them. I try so hard to love them through. Man, it's hard. Yeah, it is. And even when we call something bipolar, that's a cultural way of talking about it, because everybody technically is bipolar because everybody has bipolarity. Everybody has currents that go through their body. You have a northern polarity. You have if you will, right? You have a northern polarity and a southern polarity, right? Everybody has polarity, but I get what you're saying as far as that. And it can be something where it's spiritual. It could be something where the pineal gland is messed up. It could be something where synapses aren't firing correctly, right? But it's an abuse. It's abnormal usage of the same thing. Or borderline. I said bipolar. Sorry. Borderline. My bad. That's my fault. I went somewhere else that we shouldn't have gone. My bad. But yeah, we have to really recognize that. Thank you, Minister Tamara. We have to really recognize what's going on as far as, the issues that are happening, and it's because of abnormal usage. We are so used to the abnormal that when somebody shows us what is normal, right? And I won't even say abnormal, right? When somebody just shows us righteousness, because unfortunately, what is normal is not normal, or what should be normal. How about this? What we are designed to be is the furthest thing from what's been introduced to us. That's why this term called salvation is necessary, and you should master it, because salvation, right, is basically just saying You need to be salvaged. You need to be brought back to your original intent. That's all salvation is the process. Really, salvation is you've gone through the process of being salvaged. You've gotten back to your original intent. And that's what the rest of our lives become. And that's why some people tap out, because it can be hard, especially when somebody's told you something completely different from who you are. It don't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how many cars, how many clothes, all this stuff. When you have to deal with who you are and deal with the fact that more than likely you're not where you should have been or who you should have been, right? Like people who have all the money in the world, right? I'm telling you stuff you can read on. People who have 40 billion dollars lose all their stuff in stocks and only have $2 billion left, jump out of windows because they thought everything that they were was attached to finance. And the only thing left now, even though they still have $2 billion, peep game. Like, you could file for bankruptcy. You could, still keep $40 billion in assets, but you only got 2 billion. But it's like, oh, I can't put as much jet in my plane. Chris Rock has a joke about that, right? Like, I can't remember who he's talking about, but I'm gonna just put Bill Gates in that place, right? But he said, like, y'all think I got a lot of money, but he was like, if Bill Gates ever found out he had, had my money, he'd jump out of his plane, right? And Bill Gates woke up with Chris Rock's money, he would lose it. Now, I'm not sure if that's what he would do, but that was the joke. But it was something to try and get you to recognize that a lot of people are basing their things off of stuff that's not even real. Like money is not even real. We abnormally use money. We abnormally use cash. We abnormally use fiat cash. There's not even any gold or silver to back up your cash, which means that technically you are using stuff that's not real. You use monopoly money every day, abnormally using something. You use a piece of cloth. Some of you want to call it a piece of paper, fine. You using paper, paper money. You're using monopoly money to pay bills, to go to the store, to do that. And the second you don't have it, people tell you that you got to give up the little bit that you have. Right? Like you are being abnormally used. And you are abnormally using things. Thank you, Plastic. Appreciate it. Thanks for being part of the community. Is it Rap City? Right? Like we are abnormally using so many things. And so when somebody says, thank you, Amani, when somebody tells you that you're abnormally using these things, you're so used to the abnormal usage that you get mad when they tell you about what actually is. Yeah, toil is abuse. Yeah, toiling. It is abnormally, like people will tell you you're lazy because you don't make sure that you go and have a job for 8, 10, 15 hours. Some of y'all do 20 hours in a day. And you will say, I take pride in the fact that my body might break down. I might not get time with my children. I cannot homeschool my children. I have to depend on somebody else who doesn't even believe what I believe in, no matter what your belief is, right? But I'm going to take pride in it because it's what everybody does. But if everybody abnormally uses something, right, then you got to start saying to yourself, is it okay for me to do this? If everybody's being abused, right? Trying to break down strongholds, sure. Oh, it's all right, Miss Mac. Thank you. Thank you, Sis Beverly. Right. It's if everybody's abnormally using us, right? Should we get to a point to where we say something's wrong? But when we say something's wrong, when we say we need to get our own land, when we say let's go ahead and donate, when we talk about y'all's land project, when we say who's willing to trade food so we can trade food amongst each other, like people say, oh, you're going too far, you're asking for too much. But you're so used to giving everybody everything that you have, and they're the ones that abuse you. You hear what I'm saying? Like we're so in love with the system of the abuser that we will give everything we have to the abuser. But then somebody says, hey, we should work together to make sure that we no longer abuse. And people say, man, you asking for too much. Thank you, Sister Deja. Like that's the normalcy that we live in. Somebody says, we should make sure that we build our own. Somebody says, man, well, we gotta have to start from scratch and we're gonna have to do this or whatever. Yeah, but guess what? You struggling already. Why not struggle to make sure that you own, or even if you don't own, your baby's own? them babies that you put up of your spouses and all that anyways, you might as well make sure they have something. Hey, Jasmine, if you're interested, we are already in the process of doing it. Not just only in raising money, but in talking to each other, visiting each other, making sure we get this word, teaching people, doing stuff like that. Anybody that has a gift, talent, anything that they want to give, please come on board, right? We still need more help. We're off track. We're not where we want to be. The goal is still to get something by October, but we got to work a little more diligently. We're getting there, but we ain't quite where we need to be. We praise y'all for it, though. I still have faith it's going to happen, right? And we're not going to give up if it doesn't happen October 1st. It's still going. We still going to work it, right? But we're at least working towards it. If we got stuff in the account, and we're making sure that we're talking about things, that we have research going on, and we're getting ready to do the development of things. We got people who can build stuff from scratch, and we looking at different things like that. Like y'all, so even if the some of the stuff that we're looking at that might happen as far as others might support us financially, from big time places, we don't know for sure, right? But even if that doesn't happen, we're having faith, right? But it's time to start walking in what we say. This is what we've been talking about this year. This year is our year where we live in that which we pursue. And if you're not careful, you will walk after abuse, because you've been pursuing a lot of abusive things. But I've been pursuing peace. I've been trying to get away from lust and being in love. I've been trying to get away from fake things, fake money, and have land. I've been trying my best to get away from um, you know, get away from things that are just there for arguments, and make sure that my wife and I are always on one page. It's time for us to live in that which we have pursued. Thank you, Wanda, for being part of the community. I think I might have missed somebody. Ransom, thanks for the love. Okay. Robbie, thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate it. Minister Tamer said, deception. Nothing is certain but death and taxes. Taxes are usury, deceived into abuse. Yeah. Praise Jehovah for clarity, opening ears and eyes. And even, by the way, nothing is certain but death and poverty, but nothing's certain but death as far as your physical death. You still gonna live. You see what I'm saying? Like the things that we put so much stock in. Can I tell one of the greatest examples I ever had? I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. I myself was still homeless, or maybe going into a transitional home. This years ago. And there was a person there. I think I was still homeless. Maybe I was in a transitional home. I'm not sure. This is years ago. And there's this guy sitting on the ground, clearly homeless, disheveled, you know, all this stuff's going on, holes in his clothes. It's extremely cold outside. And so I'm sitting there, and I know what it is to be in that position. So I'm like, yo, is there anything I can do to be able to, help you or whatever? I'd like to be able, would you like food? Would you like clothes? Would you like whatever? Like, I'll try and do something for you. And he looked up at me while holding a sign that was about the word. I forget what scripture he had. Might have been John 3:16, something like that. But while holding a sign for everybody to see, this man looks up at me, and he says, no, I'm all right. And I say, you all right? You sure? It's cold above. He says, and he looks back up. No, I'm all right. He's like, only thing I need is what the Most High gives me. And he looks back down. And I still left something for him. It was a reminder though. Like, he was like, man, what you see here ain't even real. Like, that's what he was trying to get me to see. He taught me in that instant. I know some people will say, well, that's too far. And look, I think that he's still that's an abusive mindset too, to where you can be out there in the cold, right? But he's probably used to being abusive. I said, hey, at least I have my life, and at least I can show the sign and have conversations with people like you about the Most High. So in his mind, but I would say that's even a little abuse in that. However, I do not take away from the fact that what he is saying, it was powerful. That, like, a lot of stuff we tripping off of ain't even real. Like, before I was homeless, and I wasn't homeless because I did drugs. I wasn't homeless because I deserved it, any of that stuff. I was homeless because I couldn't get a place to I could have had a place to stay for free with my own father, right? However, my father, up in age, still trying to make sure, like, he has, I was the oldest at the time. He still has children. He's taking care of two others that are younger than me. And so after a while, I just said, you know what? I don't want to be a burden on him. I was in the military, right? Okay, thank you. User 738. That's usually comes from an abusive place. You know, when people grow their own stuff and they're okay with how they look, um, then usually people say that we're crazy. But that comes from an abusive place. But prayerfully, you're able to see me pass what people taught you looks crazy, and actually to see somebody's heart, whether I decide to let my hair grow naturally or not. And hello to you, if that's your way of saying hello. But I saw in that instance, right? I saw in that instance, where people are like, they don't see, they can't see. Like I saw in that instance, he showed me that like a lot of stuff's not real. So when it came to my father, like I was in a place where I thought before that, because of how society taught us, I thought we shouldn't, I never was abusive or treated people wrong because they were homeless or anything like that. Thank you, Jan. Right. However, I thought that, hey, if you were homeless, you must have done something to deserve that. You must have been drug inflicted. You must have been, dealing with stuff that you're not supposed to deal with. You must have been hating on people. You must have done something wrong. You had to do something wrong. But I ended up, hey, look, I couldn't afford. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't afford to make sure that I was all right. Ended up on the street. And my father, I could have stayed there, but I said, okay, you know what? I don't want to be a burden. I was out there. And so you meet a lot of people all of a sudden in the shelter, or people that are staying outside. Matter of fact, you meet people some places where they like to live outside. So they find places to live and they set up tents and stuff, and they'd rather just be by themselves. You find a whole lot of reasons, but and you realize real quick that you can survive without money. You know, you realize real quick. Thank you, Danny. You realize real quick. Excuse me. Excuse me. I don't have any tissue outside. Hopefully, I don't have anything in my nose. Sorry, I got to check in the. Okay. you know, you said we have been taught to judge, and this is not what we should be doing. Yeah. Or if you judge, just recognize that. However, thank you. Right. If you do judge somebody, make sure that however you judge somebody, is how you should be judged. Right. You said I'm good. Thank you, Henry, for the check. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I couldn't even read the name that popped up. Thank you for the love, Letitia. Thank you. Thank you, babe. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm definitely all right. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm okay. Yeah. So, um, you have to recognize these things. Yeah, thank you for all the bless yous. Appreciate it. Thanks for the love again, Jan. So we're in a situation where people are abused so often that they don't know it, right? And so somebody shows you the way it's supposed to be used, and because we're emotionally attached. Watch this. We are emotionally attached to the abuse, right? And since we are emotionally attached to the abuse, thanks for being on with this. It's your grit, appreciate it, right? Because you are now emotionally attached to the abuse. Hear what I'm saying? Because you are now what? Emotionally attached to the abuse. Somebody shows you how to use it right or correctly, and now in righteousness, and now all of a sudden you flip out. Thank you, boss man. We're trying to rebuild it. We had the bigger platform. Every time it gets bigger, they take it down, and then we got to start from scratch to start it over. However, people like yourself continue to be supportive of us. So, every time we got to start over, it doesn't have to go back to scratch anymore. We appreciate you, right? By the way, if you're on TikTok, even though I don't post on there as much as I would like to, go to Kofi_44 if you have time, right? So we had Kofi_40, then it was Kofi_42. Now we have Kofi_43 on TikTok. We've had others taken down too, but just on TikTok. If you can, take time out to go to TikTok and check out Kofi_44, and then, you know, um, follow, or be part of the community there. And so when we have to go over there, we got to make sure that we have 1,000 people on before we can go live. So just make sure that you join us over there. So if necessary, if we ever need to jump, but we're praying that it don't happen. But just in case. And it's all one word, KOFI_OFORI, the number 4. All right. So thank you guys. But yeah, so you got to do right now. I'm not posting too much of anything. I'm trying to be very nice over there, so they have no reason to try and take that down pre us going over there. But and all we do is talk about stuff like this, right? But you got to comprehend. And so it's a thing of abuse. Like even with the taking down of stuff, even like being blacklisted, or even being shadow banned or whatever, like you got to comprehend all that stuff is just an abusive system. People, like companies, are abusive. Once again, going back to the 40 hours per week thing, they studied you and they realized that 40 hours is about the most you can do before somebody gets to their breaking point. That's why when you go to other countries, they're more chill than you. You go to other countries, they're more chill than you. You go to other countries, they take breaks, they sleep, they have siestas because they're not concerned, right? When they work really hard. And they can come over here and outwork you, work more hours, do all that. But when it's time to rest, it's time to rest. When it's time to party, it's time to party. When it's time to kick it, it's time to kick it. They studied you and they saw that here, they say, man, you'll work. Man, these people are willing. And they only go to the breaking point. That's why now all of a sudden you can work from home and stuff, can't you? They said there's no way their company could run. There's no way the colleges could run, right? There's no way these things could happen. But then all of a sudden, oh, these things can happen. Now people don't want to go back to work for minimum wage. And what it was the first thing that they did? First thing they did, not just Republicans, Democrats did it too. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, right? But I'm just here before we even get to that and somebody tries to make this a political thing. First thing they did in Congress, first thing the president did, we started telling y'all were lazy. Trump did it, Biden did it. Hey, we need people to work out here. We need people to do this. We need people to do that. People realize they can make more money on side hustles, right? Now they make less, but at the time they could make more money on side hustles and still do, or at least make the same amount. And it's like, well, if I can sit in my car and just go from this place to this place to this place, then why do I need to go ahead and work for you? Why do I need to have a job for you? Why do I need to work 40 hours for you? I'd rather work 55 hours and be able to, people were out here. I saw it when I was still doing a side hustle thing. I was out here doing deliveries, food deliveries and clothing deliveries and all types of stuff. And I'd see people picking up food and stuff and they be having their children with them and their children would be going inside to do it. They were teaching their child while their child was doing homeschooling. They were doing homeschooling in the car, having their child and teaching them business. Reconstruction of the sugarcane field. I hear you. You said it's what we do for others. Love. Be blessed, young man. Um, okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Right? Like people work 40 hours. That's respectful. Right? But it's like, but you don't spend time with your child. Right? Like I as a husband should be spending time with my wife. You said nope, more like 32. Yeah. Some people don't even do 32. Some places 20 hours is a lot. There's places where they only do 20 hours a week. And everybody lives all right. I won't say they live all right. They probably don't own and stuff like that, but still, like they survive. People talk about America. Oh, all these Americans out here trying to live off the government. Man, when COVID happened, and Kofi underscore 42 was big, at that time. So we were dealing with millions of people and stuff at that time. Still kind of sort of do, but not to the same extent. Now we focus more on, kingdom building until we build back up to the number. However, it was very interesting, like talking to people in Ireland, all the people, and I was, my wife and I were big time. We were trying to get ready to do a little tour and everything in Ireland. It was going to be like wild, like people were putting together money. They were getting ready to pool together money just to have us come over there through a guy over there who's doing really well now for himself named, well, he used to be Patty Panda or something like that. I don't know what his TikTok name is anymore, but yeah, like he was putting it together for us. And come to find out, when COVID happened, the government made sure everybody was straight. I mean, the government made sure, I'm talking about like everybody was getting something. They set up stuff where stuff was cheaper, this and that, or whatever. They had better control as far as if people who were afraid of this, that, whatever, okay, they controlled who could go where, do this, whatever. Like it was like totally different than over here, where everybody's first response is, why y'all trying to get off this? Or the government gave y'all what did they, when y'all were rushing to get that stuff from taxes, what was it that they gave y'all? It was $600 or something like that. You said Ireland got a one. I don't even remember what that means, babe. I'm sorry. The word master was traded for the word employer. Well, the word master just means teacher. So these people are out here really mastering people because they teaching people, right? They also owners. That's the one we need to look at. Slave owner is one and the same with the slave master, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. And they out here owning you and teaching you. You said they're okay with you working for them for a while or plus life. Mm-hmm. It was 800 a month. Okay. So people were out here breaking their back to be part of a wicked system that's going to have you pay taxes, which means that you're dealing with benefits and privileges, which means that you're no longer a citizen of the United States of America, but you're a citizen of the United States, if you even know the difference between the two. And people were doing all that stuff and only for 800 a month. But in other places, they were like, yo, yeah, like you need to get be taken care of. Period. You know, they were like, everybody out here is struggling right now. And they made sure everybody was all right. You said it was 1,400 and 600. All right, cool. You said Ireland, everybody got 1,700 a month. There you go. My wife said everybody got 1,700 a month, and even people who didn't comprehend our plight. You know what people in Ireland did? That was really cool. They used to ask questions on here. People who are Irish Americans, which people in Ireland can't stand Irish Americans. They can't. We had some people who are Irish that moved here and took some of our classes when we first started doing classes, and they used to tell us how they can't stand Irish Americans because they said Irish Americans always talk about pull yourself up by your own bootstrap, but they said Irish people comprehend oppression like almost nobody else because the Irish people were basically the first people to be mistreated by the English before the English started spreading their stuff to everybody else. And so Irish people, they fight besides Native Americans. Irish people, they have the Isle of Montserrat, the island of Montserrat, whereas Black, African, and Native people and Irish people all mixed together as one. You know, like people don't even know this stuff exists. Irish people died in Texas with Black people and with brown people, right? If you want to call Mexicans brown and not Black, even though we're all the same. Nevertheless, they died with us knowing that they were going to die. They could have left. They could have just said, we're white people, we're going to leave them alone. Y'all go ahead, kill them off. They died with us. Like Irish people out here making sure that the Choctaw people are still taken care of because there's a whole thing in Ireland. There's a whole statue in Ireland, a Choctaw statue, where it's something that represents when the Choctaw people saw the Irish people were in need, the Choctaw people sent them stuff. So when Choctaw people needed some medical supplies during the COVID stuff, America wouldn't give it to them. Ireland made sure they got it, right? That's why you got to get out of the whole thing. Like we're abnormally using even the thing as race. You said you own a company and it's resources, human resources. Yeah. Like we don't even know this stuff. We're abnormally using race because we don't realize that racism is something that has to be taught on both sides. And at least the Irish will come on, they'd ask questions. There's some of our people that come on here, bro, your hair is messed up. Up here comes some other hotep. Oh, you don't even, I've had people come on immediately. Are you married to a white woman? Blah, blah. It's like, even if I was, so what? However, I get it. And why would you just assume? You make fun of my hair because you say I'm too Afrocentric and I'm too into the game, but then you make the assumption my wife, like cognitive dissonance. We're dealing with abuse. People come on here, that's ad hominem. Ad hominem is when they don't know how to deal with what you're saying, so they just make fun of you. They abuse you. It's abusive. Thank you for being part of the community, Brandon. It's abusive. It's abuse. We're dealing with abuse constantly and consistently. And once again, when you live in abuse for a really long time, you get used to it. Deborah said there's a lady in my environment, 68 years old, trying to get back to work, but dealing with back pain on a daily basis. Yeah. And so she's in a system that says that she got to work her behind off as our elder, 68 years old, to get back in the system where she'll probably barely be able to pay her bills, and the system doesn't take care of her. See, I'm learning this stuff legally. When we build the land and stuff like that, and it's going to be privately owned, and it's going to be under us, and we're going to make it a religious sect just so legally we can make sure that we block ourselves from a lot of different things as far as sovereignty is concerned. But when we do that stuff, like you can get rid of your social security number. You know why? Because the government says that you can get rid of your social security number, or at least doesn't have to be attached to you anymore, as soon as you can go somewhere where people live like you, they believe in the same thing, you have your own land, and you guys have a way to be able to take care of the elderly. Because that's all Social Security was supposed to be for initially in the first place, was to take care of the elderly or those that needed care. Or really at the time, it was also because they were going through a Great Depression. It was supposed to be there to help people. Now people on Social Security number be eating dog food. People making $600 a month, supposed to live somewhere where they help with some assistance, but still got to pay maybe $200 a month. And they're supposed to try and figure that out. And a lot of them raising grandbabies. You said, why stay in the U.S. to have your own land? You don't have to stay in the U.S. right? But I got work to do in the U.S. though. But if you go to Amish country, for example, you know Amish country is not U.S. land. If you go to a Roman Catholic Church is not U.S. land. You leave the U.S. all the time. You just don't know it, right? Try to get your land where your land is allodial. When you own it, it's allodial. Police can't come on there for no reason or whatever. If it's your land, people can't just come on your property. If a police officer come on my property and they ain't got no paperwork, especially, and even if they do, I'm gonna ask them for 3 forms of ID. You on my land, you're on my country. When you go state to state to state, you know that Alabama is a state, right? And Mississippi is a state, and then Tennessee is a state, and Kentucky is a state, and North Carolina is a state, and South Carolina is a state, and Georgia is a state, et cetera, right? Well, every state is a country. The word state means country. Every time you go from state to state, you're going from country to country. We just don't know that because we are abnormally using things. But the goal eventually, yeah, sure, is to make sure that I have land and that we have land in other countries as well. You need to have land as much as possible. Land is what gets you the stuff, because when you have the land, you can build whatever companies and stuff on your land, and you can pay people whatever you want. And especially if you have food, really the main thing you're looking for is food, shelter. Make sure you got some kind of sewage system and then get some solar energy in there, right? As soon as you got that together, you can develop stuff. You just got to work harder to make it happen. You said, do I believe in separation with reparations? Let us have our own country. I believe that we should, I believe, so separation, I have no problem with separation. I believe that the best time that we as a people, I know it's going to get into black nationalism, and some people would say that's abusive in and of itself. But, you know, to answer that correctly, um, or to answer that as far as contextual facts, I don't want to give you an opinion. Let me stay in contextual facts. Um, the greatest time that our diaspora has had as a people, if you want to call us Native American, Indigenous to Australia, Polynesian or Austronesian or Melanesian, whatever, right? The greatest time that we've had as a people, African, Alkebulan, Ethiopian, South Africa, whatever you want to claim, Taino, Omekshi, the greatest that we've ever done as a people has always been when we've been separate. You said you need the link for Patreon, or is it normal to link straight YouTube? So, oh, well, yeah, there's stuff on Patreon that you get that you won't have access to. It might take you to other places, but you won't have access to it unless you have Patreon. That's what Patreon really does. And it's kind of a thank you for those that are willing to give a little more in a different manner than some others are willing to give. But the best we ever did as a diaspora has always been when we were in either segregation, right? One umbrella segregation, or when we've been by ourselves as far as kingdoms. That's why they don't like when you say, "What's up, king? What's up, queen?" They don't like it, right? They'll say, "Oh, why do you want to be a king? Why do you want to be a queen?" Monarchies are terrible places, this, that, or whatever. And it's like, but you live in a monarchy. The United States of America is a republic. A republic is a kingdom, right? However, when we're speaking on, I don't know anything about a guitar center years ago in Chicago. Could be possible. I did live in Chicago years ago. Face doesn't look familiar to me, but who knows? Long story short, what was? Oh, no. Going back to the question. So, if you're talking about reparations and separation, I think it's all right for us to have our own land and be committed to it. And I don't believe people need to stay on that land, but I believe they need to make sure that they are committed to that land growing and being successful. And as far as reparations, do we deserve reparations? Sure, right? Sure, of course we deserve reparations. Of course we deserve reparations. Problem is, though, if we just be honest about it, when are they coming? How are they coming? Who's going to give it to you? Will it be enough? And what will be the rules that dictate it? Because if you get the reparations, right, if they actually give you what you deserve, are you in a mindset to do anything about it? So my thing is, I'm not against it. If people need me to speak up for reparations or for something, I definitely don't mind using the platform to do so. Right? If somebody feels, if somebody wants to give us the new version of 40 acres and a mule, if that mule is a tractor, if that mule is a car, if that mule is whatever. But I'm not looking for someone else to give us what they should have given us. They kind of sort of get like, here's the weird thing. Remember, America didn't really give you reparations. America was forced into giving you reparations by General Sherman. General Sherman had a bunch of people that were following him as he was destroying all these places in the South. And when he finally laid waste to everything, black people were following his army around because they looked at him as like, like a deliverer, like they're Moses in a sense, right? Didn't know no better, but it is what it is, right? Like they said, at least this guy's coming, he's destroying stuff, and they followed them around. The army has to forage for food. They helped the army forage for food. They felt it was protection, things like that, right? General Sherman has a meeting with them. He actually sends a wire up to Washington, D.C., right? He sends a wire up to Washington, D.C., and he basically says, like, yo, these people are following me around. What should I do? So they send them word back and they say, like, talk to them. Your novel idea, right? Talk to the people who are there. Why don't you just talk to them? So he speaks with them, and there's 4 black pastors. There's 4 former slave pastors that speak to him, and they basically say, look, we're not looking for a whole bunch of stuff. We just really, we don't need money, all this other stuff. We want land, and we want an opportunity to be free to teach our children what we want. And so he grants it to him. He's the one that puts up 40 acres and a mule. He didn't even like black people. He would actually, once they started doing he was from Texas, I believe, or somewhere, maybe Texas, Louisiana, somewhere a little further west than Georgia, right, where he's famous for. But he would actually be somebody that would stand up against black people getting rights and things of that nature. But he did it because he was somebody who was anti-Confederacy so much. He told anybody who wanted to split from the Union, he said, when war comes, it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be stuff that you're not going to like. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to have to do because our goal is to preserve the Union. His goal was to preserve the Union. So he felt like to make sure he put the final nail in the coffin, he was going to destroy the Confederacy by making sure that the people that they made money off of could be free. So that's why they were called freedmen. And so basically that was our 40 acres and a mule. Lincoln had it set up to where you could start arresting them, and he helped to create the 13th Amendment before he passed away. The 14th Amendment comes behind that, and then starts saying you can't be freedmen, anybody born within our borders, what we call our borders, even though you gave us our own territory, but you say anybody born within our borders can't be a freedman anymore, which means that's why they took the land from you, right? Because technically, if there's anybody who still has freedman land, who is a freedman or from black people of the time, technically that land is not of the United States of America. So they started arresting people, taking their land. They shut down the Freedmen Bank that Frederick Douglass was over, and they did a whole bunch of stuff after Lincoln died. And therefore, their goal was to do what? To ensure that you didn't have anything anymore, to take away your ability to be free and to make it American land one more time. And so therefore, anybody born in American land, technically, by what they said, is now a citizen of the United States corporation, not even a citizen of their freed land or even sovereign states, because they got rid of the sovereign states, especially down south, as a punishment for them becoming part of the Confederacy. So there's a lot of twists and turns to it. Long story short, though, somebody needs me to speak up for reparations, but I'm about inward reparations first, because you got to improve yourself. And then reparations as far as, look, if it's your land and you know how to make it correct, there's a lot of people who are unbothered of multiple colors because they just go out, get land, and they know how to operate in it and make sure that it's theirs. We can get land. You can put a fence around it. You can build up homes. I mean, even, at first, some of us are going to have to be there in tents and stuff as we're building stuff, but sure, we'll build up tiny homes. We'll build up little shelters here and there. We'll make sure that we have an outhouse that turns into a place where people can actually get rid of stuff correctly. We'll make sure we have a sewage plant. We'll make sure we check for water. We make sure we grow our own food. We make sure we get, about 30 acres plus, maybe 50 acres. That's the goal, right? But you get a nice amount of land, a nice place. You make sure that you can defend it. You make sure everybody that comes on is sovereign. If you're a sovereign, you're allowed to have as many weapons as you need and all those different things. And you start building, you train people. You make sure that you check people as they come in and out. You have to. They can come in and out as they please, but you have to make sure you protect yourself. This is what other people do all day long. We think it's normal for them to do, but not normal for ourselves, right? But that's for us to want to do. And you can do that on your own land. We just don't think about those things. But once again, we're about being abused. We're so used to abnormal usage that other people who take care of themselves, We don't look at them the same. You said Andrew Johnson changed that? Yeah, so president number 17, he changed it. But Lincoln was probably going to change it too. He wasn't working towards harmony. He had said in 1858 that he wasn't working towards harmony of black and white people, even though he was part white, part native black, and part native African, or part black African, part black native, and part white. Right? But Andrew Johnson had some stuff to do with it. So did Ulysses S. Grant. You know, and it continued. Theodore Roosevelt ain't no prize. You know, keep on looking. You know, at what he did. You know, the system is there, but we're so used to abuse. Like a lot of people don't even know Mount Rushmore sits in the middle of Sioux territory that the United States government is still trying to give the Sioux people. Now it's like $3 billion they're trying to give them to say, please let us have this territory. And the Sioux say, no, our land is not for sale. Yet the United States of America keeps doing stuff on their land, including having Mount Rushmore. And those 4 presidents comprehend Native people. We don't call presidents. We call them town destroyers. Because they come into your village and they destroy your way of life and they destroy who you are, and then they gaslight you. And so, yeah, if they give us grudgingly, if people have to, and here's another thing, Bree said this, giving grudgingly. If somebody's going to give me something grudgingly, here's another thing. If the abuser doesn't really want to give you something, this is Exodus, right? Deliver us and all that stuff you like in the movies and all that stuff, 10 Commandments, the Prince of Egypt, all that stuff like that, right? If somebody, it's in your Bible though, that's where it started. And remember, the Pharaoh grudgingly, it took his son having to die for him to grudgingly say, go ahead and go. Right? But because he gave it grudgingly, all people had to do was stroke his ego a little bit, and he still went to go after you. So, you know, you've got to be in a place to where you got a lot of things together where you can protect yourself. What is going to be your sea of reeds? Some of you know it as the Red Sea, but what's going to be your sea of reeds that's going to ensure that you're going to be taken care of? Sorry, Don said thank you. I don't think I'm being clear, but I've figured it out, just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah, you're fine. Thank you. Thanks for being part of the community, Tika. Hopefully I pronounced it right. User 421. Manatla says, in our consumer state, we would be making others even richer because of because of what we already have, because of more resources. Yeah, people want centralization, not decentralization. That's why, you know, you should at least look into cryptocurrency, even if you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, but you should at least look into it because cryptocurrency is decentralized. That's why they're trying to tax. They can't tax cryptocurrency. They're trying to tax the virtual wallets that you guys use. That's why at least have some of your money in a cold wallet, and they can't even tax that because they can't see it and it's not attached to any system. Would you? Is it? I don't know if I'm gonna say this right. Wijagi, is that right? Wijjagi. Thanks for being part of the community. Amish been doing it for years, yeah. You know, but a lot of people do it. We just don't know. I mentioned the Roman Catholic Church. That's why if you go to a Roman Catholic Church service, every time you step in, you're not on American soil. Or if you're in England, you're in English soil. If you're in New Zealand, you're not in New Zealand soil. If you're in South Africa, you're not on South African soil. That's the way that works. Right? Like you don't have you don't have to be in somebody's country. And in other countries, especially in African countries or people that are more in tune with the earth, you know, that's why you don't worry about paying taxes on your land a lot and things like that are weird. Like that's stuff that comes from somebody else's culture. That's not real. Once again, we got to get into the real. We are so used to, right? Full circle back now. We are so used to people telling us how to live in abnormal usage that we don't know how to use things correctly. Yeah, get a trade as well. Yeah, and you can trade with the trade. You can always make money with a trade. And that's why you can run into a church for amnesty. Yeah, it's done all the time. Still, it was done all the time back in the day. Like you're not supposed, right? Even with the supposed separation of church and state, they're not supposed to just run in the church after somebody. You know, like this stuff exists, but we're so used to abnormal usage that we don't notice stuff. They use this all the time, and they use it on a regular basis. They tell you not to use it. Like I told people this before when everybody, because I'm not into the Republican Democrat thing, when everybody was all mad at Trump and everybody's like, he only paid this much money in taxes. I was like, for real, I was mad. I was like, why he pay taxes at all? I was like, he's Donald Trump. He ain't supposed to pay taxes. I was like, the problem is you don't know how to not pay taxes. If you were a non-citizen national, you could go ahead and make sure that you get rid of a W-2, a W-4, a W-9, a 1099, all these different things that you carrying, W-9s, and you can get yourself a W-8BN. If you do that, then you don't have to pay taxes. You have tons of people that are from other countries. You meet these people that are technically English, and Spanish and from other countries or whatever. They don't have W-2s. They can't because they're not citizens, but they still make a whole bunch of money. They keep 100% of their money. They don't get taxed. That's how they do that. See, still in the system. So you're gonna have a bunch of people coming over Ukraine while they're flying people out back to Africa because they don't want them here. They're flying all these people over from Ukraine. And guess what they're gonna do for those people of Ukraine? Just because they're part of their community. Even though they live somewhere else, they're a diaspora. If we could get this context down, that's why I say stop getting mad at colonization, stop getting mad at gentrification. You should be colonizing and you should be gentrifying. It's okay. If you go to a Chinese neighborhood, they're going to charge you 3 times, 4 times as much for a place as they do somebody that's Chinese. Why? Because they're trying to protect the culture. It's not a bad thing. And if somebody does that, the person has a comprehension. Hey, if I'm gonna come into this area, right, I'm still gonna make a bunch of money, so it's worth it. And I shouldn't just be allowed in here. They have a mindset that it's not mine, so I'm not going to be able to be allowed in here, right? It's only we as a diaspora who say everything we do has to be inclusive of everybody before it's inclusive of us. I'm not even mad about it being inclusive of everybody because everybody should be grafted in, but at least take care of yourself. At least heal yourself. Why are we trying to make sure that white people are comfortable saying the N-word, or white people are comfortable with being allies, or white people look, I'm not mad at it, but why is that more important than taking care of your own? Now, not all skin folk is kinfolk. Just because you're black doesn't mean that but a real ally, if that's what you're gonna call yourself, should comprehend that we still got a lot of stuff to deal with that has never been dealt with. Why would you be upset with us for saying we're going to take care of self? I would never be upset at a mother and father, right? I can't be upset at a mother and father who are having a born day party or a birthday party, as a lot of people call it, and they out there doing their thing, and my son shows up and they don't know my son. They have 5 children. They trying to make sure the 5 children are eating and having a great time. My son comes up and says he wants some birthday cake. And they say, well, we don't really have any birthday cake for you. I'm not going to say racist, right? I'm not going to say you're so wrong. I'm not going to say, why did you have it out in public knowing that other children might come by? I'm going to say, yeah, you know what, Solomon? Like that's their thing. It's their day. Salah. It's their day. They got some stuff they're doing to make sure that child and that family becomes closer, right? There'll be a time that they might do or be a part of something bigger to where they can go and do so. And it doesn't mean that just because they didn't do it for me, doesn't mean that I wouldn't do it for them. But it doesn't matter. Like I get it because that's not my child. That's not their child, rather, and that they're not his parents. And so as his parents, I would have no problem with them as a parent saying, hey, take care of your child. But somebody says, take care of your people, and they say you're a reverse racist. We got a problem. So our best mom says they want to tell you how while conducting personal behavior. Yeah. You hear what I'm saying? Like that's what they're trying to do. And thanks for the love. I'm sorry I didn't catch it. Did I say hello? Faith. Thank you, Faith, for that. That was nice. Appreciate it. Right? You said reflected in unhealthy eating habits, relationships, finances, haven't filed for the new passport yet. Can you submit W8BN now? You got to have that. I mean, you can, but if they catch it, if they don't, like if you say to them, well, I'm not using my social blah blah this and that anymore, but you got to have something like if they go, but because you got to prove that you're a non-citizen national. Best way to prove it is if you got proof, So you got to prove it. Now you can see if you can catch a bunch of laws and do this and put stuff together, but you got to plead your case. Or not plead your case. Sorry, you shouldn't plead. You're not an animal, but you get what I'm saying. How you doing, Chef? Sorry, I didn't say anything earlier. Beatrice, if you're still on with us, NXH, JB2, we appreciate you. How you doing, Tulips? All right, so we have all this different stuff going on, and people are so used to abnormal usage. We are so used to being abnormally used that we don't recognize it. So you're in the mindset of an abuser. And if you're not careful, you become an abuser because you have the mindset. People trying to get us to go into these long, drawn out things. I'm not an abuser because of this. This person's more of an abuser than me. That's what abusers do. Well, at least I don't abuse the way they abuse. That's how abusers think, right? You hear that all the time. Well, go to somebody else's country and see how free you really are. What does that have to do with the fact you abused me? That's how abusers think, though. That's how abusers think. You know? Thank you, Wade, for being part of the community, right? That's how abusers think. Yeah, abuse is abuse. Well, if you were living in Tijuana right now, there's crime and stuff happening with it. Man, shoot, there's crime happening in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky right now. Like, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's Skid Row right now in the United States of America. There's people that live with holes in their roofs right now in Georgia. Right? There's people that are trying to make sure that they can simply bite into something, but they can't get their teeth done in the United States of America right now. There's people that still haven't been able to live in places that they grew up in because you can't make sure a levee works in New Orleans right now. Like, what are you talking about? You're abusing people right now, but what do? Gaslight. Yeah, and lesser two evils is still evil, right? But even still, like, is it more evil that you have third world problems in your first world nation than the place that has third world problems because they're a third world nation? Which one is worse? And even still, they're both evil. It doesn't make sense, Like, people do this weird thing because there's more wealth in America, supposedly. Because that's often times a lie too. People just believe what you hear. So you think that America, every place in America, like you think, a lot of people grew up, and some people still think, I'm not going to Africa. You'll hear black people, I ain't going to Africa. When my wife and I were going, we had family members or people, married into family, whatever, talking about, yeah, I'm not ever going to Africa. What if I run into a lion? Whatever. You think in Africa, lions are just rolling around the street everywhere? That's like saying I'm not going to America because I might get caught up by a wolf or a bear, or I might run into a bison. Like, you got to go looking for that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, water's not in Detroit. They use, the fires in California. You know who they use to put those fires out? They use people in prison. Slave labor. I'm not saying it's only them, but the firefighters that put out fires for 2 hours for $2 or $1 an hour, they get to leave prison and go out there and fight fires and all that. Still chained up because they can't run anywhere, but they get to go out there and fight fires, and then they finish fighting fires or whatever, and then they come back to prison. A lot of them die. But you were taught that you live in a first world country, so you don't have third world problems. If you don't get out my face with that, Washington, D.C. is one of the worst places in the world if you want to see where homeless people are at. If you want to see straight homelessness, go to Washington, D.C. I was in Washington, D.C. as a homeless person. I can tell you from personal experience. And it's even worse than what you think, because a lot of times you think that for somebody to be homeless, they got to be tattered up, or they got to be panhandling, or they got to be playing an instrument on the side of the street, hoping that you'll give them a little something in their cup. Yeah, prayerfully, SOC will be going to Africa. We were trying to make that happen before COVID happened too. Right? So so if y'all want to save up some money, that might be something we need to save up for a couple years and make that happen. But we can start bringing that back right now. We focus on the land, you know. But I'm telling you guys, like, this is, you have to be in a position, right? But people will once again abuse you, abnormally use, right? That, like, yeah, Africa likes a lot of nature because a lot of places are about nature. So you'll see a very nice, well-crafted place in the midst of a lot of nature. It doesn't mean that Africa has no money. Matter of fact, before y'all started, the people who started making money off of cryptocurrency, before everybody else, as far as a collective, were African people, because African people already always use their phones to pay for everything. They have been doing that before cryptocurrency because their fiat cash, that plate monopoly money had got so low down in value that to buy some food, you might have had to have a wheelbarrow worth of money for just to buy some food for the store. So they just started putting it in their phone and paying on their phone. So you hear about wow, what is his name? Um, the billionaire, the black guy who builds a lot of stuff, natural energy and stuff in Africa through the help of China or whatever. Name starts with an A. Why am I forgetting his name? I'm trying to say like Akron, no, Akon. Thank you. Yeah, Akon. Um, and you think that that's like some new thing, and oh wow, he's going to build a technologically advanced city and stuff. Like Africa has a whole bunch of places like that. The only places that you see that they show you, though, will be the places where can you feed a children? Can you feed a child for $5 a month? And that's something else that really messes with me too, because it's like we don't need millions of dollars to do that. My wife and I can attest to the fact that out of my pocket, $80 a month was feeding a village of children. Like they were eating well, and they had extra money to buy bunk bed stuff and all that stuff and get them from sleeping on the dirt. Like $80 a month. It's not even like if you know how to just go direct and you ain't got to go through a middleman because their business, they're paying a whole bunch of people to do this. Like if I just go straight to the source and I go to the pastor over there, I go to Pastor Conga, I just tell him, yo, but what you need? $80 for this. That'll get us this bag of rice. That'll get us this bag of meat. That'll get us this. That'll get us that. And then we'll be able to do some things. Cool, no problem. He even hooked them up with some of the people that at the time, when I was doing the church thing, was going to church with whatever. They started paying a little bit here, $20, $40 every once in a while. You said Germany has those ads for us, yeah, because people in Germany are like, yo, like Americans, they over there, they broke, but they're not lying. We see once again, you got to comprehend, like they even abnormally use the term third world country. There are people right here in the states, in the countries, the states, 50 states or 50 countries. Right here in these 50 countries, there are people that are hurting right now. I don't have to go too far today. If I wanted to just take a walk, I promise you, I'm gonna run into somebody who's gonna be asking me if I got a couple dollars in the location I'm in right now. It's not that hard, right? It's not that hard to find it. But you've been taught that somebody else in third world country. But I want you to think about this. In all your first world stuff, you can't even keep a marriage together because you think that money is more important than marriage. That's why you break up over money, because you think that money is more important than marriage. So you break up. Those who are on the podcast, thank you for being on. We probably got about 5 to 7 minutes before it's going to shut us down. So if you want to join us over on TikTok or on YouTube, we appreciate you for being on. Thank you again. And we honor the king and queen in each and every one of you. I see you, Ms. Mack. Ms. Mack said that reverse racism screams ignorance and arrogance. People don't want to deal with that stuff. Jay Waddle, I believe, or LJ Waddle, or IJ Waddle, I'm not sure, but thank you for being on with us today. Or IJW Adele, I'm not even sure, but thank you for being on. We appreciate it. Sorry for mismanaging that name. Bree says this is why it's upsetting that they can just send so much to another country and don't take care of here. Yeah. You should hope everybody in here has been taking care of themselves. Yeah, in that situation now, yeah, a lot of people are in dire straits. And it's very interesting, but we don't comprehend that we live in abuse. Abuse says that you as the abuser should take care of the abused. Or I'm sorry, abuse, when you're in an abuse frame of mind, it teaches you that people who are abused like you should not be taken care of. However, you should take care of the abuse, of the abuser. I've messed it up several times now. Let me try it again. This world, this system we're in, teaches the abused that they should not take care of the abused. However, they should make sure that they lift up the abuser. Right? Hello, how you doing? Okay, Kayla. Right? This system teaches you to not take care. If you are abused, you should not take care of the abused. You should lift up the abuser. That's what the system says. Don't take care of the abused. You should take care of the abuser. If you don't believe me, people are going to sit there today and they're going to go to church today, right? Some of y'all already in church, depending on when your services are, if you went to an early service or something like that. But people are going to go to church today. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to talk about how blessed they are to have a job in which they'll work for somebody who takes their money, right? 60% of your money gone, 60 to 70%. Because a lot of people don't even know how to pay taxes correct if you're going to pay them. 60, 70% of your taxes gone. 40 plus hours of your life gone. Right? But you're going to praise God for the abuse because you're not in the situation that somebody else is. Meanwhile, that person who's even more abused than you by society, you will walk by them. They will walk by them when they go to their service. They will walk by them today. All right, Felisa, thanks for being on. Those same people will walk by them today. Hear what I'm saying? Those same people will what? Will walk by the abused, impoverished people today. Right before, right after service, and say, you know what? I'm not going to give my money to them. They don't care about getting better. They deserve to be homeless. If they really tried, if they really believed, if they really had faith, then they wouldn't be where they were today. Right after you get a sermon on Job, that's what you're going to talk about today. That's what you're going to do. Right after you open up the book of Job to hear about this man who made it through and didn't do anything, and it was the Most High trying to show the devil that the devil doesn't have control over Job. They're going to talk about somebody's child died because of the unfaithfulness of the parent, not realizing that they just opened up the book of Job. It's going to happen to somebody today. You said, you know, right? Get caught up in the drama of the comments. I feel like I can't hear the word, putting out all the F's. Love the family when we meet. Oh boy. My wife said, wow, you had me stuck there for a second, staring at the screen, upholding abusers. Yeah, we uphold abusers. And we will praise the Most High. I'm so thankful that I can be abused for 60 hours out of my week. I used to do that. I get it. I was in the United States military. I was in the United States Corporation at 17 years old, abnormally used. Had to be willing to shoot little children if necessary. Didn't happen, praise Yah, but had to be prepared. Hey, might have to shoot a child because somebody told me they might carry a bomb on them. I know people who come home messed up because of that. And while you're saying we thank you for your service, something in them's going, right? They're depressed because they've gone through some things that you wouldn't even imagine. You wouldn't even imagine the stress that some people are carrying right now. You should try that one with CPS, but I took care of the neighbor's child. Yeah. You said that you heard a pastor say that about homeless people. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say that. I'm sorry, also, I miss you. Said, oh, that's true. It's what people do. Yeah. Right. Like you got to get to this place. You got to recognize in this place. I'm sorry. Minister Tamara said Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20, woe unto them that call evil good, or evil of things of Elohim and things of Elohim evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Yeah. And woe is what? Woe is a curse. So when you see in the Bible, woe unto this person, woe, it's saying you're cursed. Woe unto the person that thinks that abuse is okay. But you see, when you hear, when the next time you hear, and I don't know what's going on, we got somebody. The ambulance or police officer or what? Hopefully everything's all right wherever they're going. Oh, it's the ambulance. Okay, we pray that whatever needs to be healed is healed. And Yahweh's now. I'm sorry, you said maybe they feel limited amount of charity would be better used in another fashion. You're talking about the person giving? I mean, that's fine. But how are you using it in the first place? You know what's interesting? Once again, and this is not a one size fits all thing, right? But let's be honest. A lot of people who are talking about Why they won't give to somebody because they lazy, this and that, or whatever. They don't give in general. I'm not talking, right. There might be somebody like, look, I'm not saying that every single poor person that walks up to me on the street, or every single person that's going to lose their house today, or every single person who might have money but just wants money or whatever, I'm going to give it to them because I feel like I got to be led to do everything, right? So I don't just give to everybody. Right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are a lot of people who are giving you some stuff that's false. Nowhere in your, if you are going to go to church today and open your Bible, nowhere are you going to find that because somebody is homeless, they deserved it. Because even if somebody's on the street, it doesn't even mean they're forsaken. Because while I was out there in the street, I still ate. I once was young and now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging bread. So I'm not, we do this weird thing, but I'm saying a lot of people don't give, and they'll give you weird reasons. They start preaching as to why it's okay to say that you not give to somebody because of the class of society that they fall into. That's a weird thing to do, right? It's a weird thing. People don't think about it. It's abnormal usage. It's abuse, abnormal usage, right? But it's abuse to tell people we're going to go to another country and we're going to bomb them, and everybody that's there deserves to die because they're part of that country. That's a weird thing to do. We do it all the time, so we're used to it. We just say that's war, right? But unless there's a specific reason for it, there's a tactical reason, or sometimes there's something to where, hey, look, like you might have to, in order to win, you might have to take this area, and you might, maybe give people a warning, maybe tell them they can leave, this and that, but you might have to go ahead and do that. Yeah, you said facts. You never know how to respond to thank you for your service. Yeah, not everybody is always pleased when you say thank you for their service. I'm not saying you should stop saying it. Just saying, right? You said a lot of homeless men are vets with PTSD. That's a lot. You said they strip them of their identity. Yeah. You said amen, and that is exactly where we are now. Good and evil flip. Craig says it's not that I don't want to help people, but if I have to, everyone help everyone. Yeah. Once again, yeah. I'm not saying we help everybody. I'm saying though that a lot of people just don't give in general, and they have a whole lot of sayings to be able to tell you why it's fine. Right? Like Michael Jordan, right? People just love whatever Michael Jordan says, and he keeps proving himself to be kind of, crazy on a lot of idiotic, but because he could dunk a basketball, we just, we gave him a lot of money. And so now because he's really good at dunking the basketball, we gave him a team, we gave him money, we allowed him to, use Nike to have his brand out there, which means that he's allowed to use prison labor here and labor in other countries to be able to make his shoes for dirt cheap, to sell them to you for 200, 300, 400, $500 a pair. All these different things, right? Um, so like this, there's a wild, there's like a wild nature. There's a wild thing that comes to all this stuff, right? Um, where we have this weird complex, like Michael Jordan was talking. It was on Oprah years and years and years ago, probably in the '90s, or maybe the early 2000s. And Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan are sitting there with Oprah, and Charles Barkley tells the story that he was getting ready to go in his wallet and to give money to somebody who was on the street. Right. So he's, Charles Barkley's rich, to give somebody 20, 50, 100, who knows how much he's going to give him. Ain't nothing to Charles Barkley. So he gets ready to go on his wallet, give it to him. His Michael Jordan slapped his hand away and said, if he can say, can you give me some money? He can say, may I take your order, please? And a lot of people laughed when they heard. Matter of fact, everybody laughed. Oprah gave him a fist bump when he said it. Right. Meanwhile, if these billionaires out here could give, you know, I say 0.5% of what they make a year just for food, there's no way that people don't eat in this country. Matter of fact, if America didn't throw away food that actually is still edible every day at the rate that they did, and they took that food and spread it out across the world, there would be nobody hungry. And that's facts. Glad you stopped into, is it Geisha Williams? And what I just said, though, that's facts. But you're so used to abnormal usage. It is not normal to go somewhere and have food thrown away that is still able to be ate. It is not normal to have food that has I grew up, I had to get over this, right? throwing away food that's got a peach or a pear or an apple or something that has a bruise in it, right? But when you're so used to having more than what's even necessary, you do abnormal things. You abuse things, right? When you're used to saying that you've always had a place to stay, the person that doesn't have a place to stay, they must be bad because it's abnormal usage of how we think. So you said you can thank BlackRock for buying up real estate. They want everyone renting. Well, even more than that, the goal really, by what, 2030 or so, the goal, with people that are even connected businesses and the Rothschilds and other people that are connected even into the papacy, the goal is to have everybody by 2030 either living in cities that where everything is. Like, have you noticed that all these apartment complexes that they build now, when they build an apartment complex, your food, clothes, shopping, all your needs are right downstairs. They're doing that for a reason. Do you know that there are places where they're building underground cities where sunlight and everything is going to be something that they give you fake and false sunlight? Everybody's going to live underneath. Like, those things are in the works right now. There are places right now where you can scan a chip. I'm not making that up, right? Is it Switzerland is one place where you can go? Not Switzerland. Not Swiss. Is it the Dutch? I can't remember. Somewhere in that area, where you can go. Maybe even in Finland as well. And there's cities you can go right now, and they'll scan a chip that's inside you right now, and you can get access, and it knows your name. These things that like people think are weird and stuff, and we're making fun of, and the mark and all that stuff. Like, this stuff is here. And what's going to happen is people who decide to live normal lives and live on land and live, some of them might have to live out in the star under the stars, right? But those of us that decide to live on land and travel places and not be in the metaverse, things that exist today, right, where people are having 3D interaction with people in their own family inside their own homes. People are going to start having 3D interactions with people for work instead of even looking at each other's faces on Zoom and doing what we do now. Like, we're in a position where we got to be careful. But we're so used to the abnormal. We're so used to the abnormal usage, abuse, abnormal use. We're so used to the abnormal usage of ourselves and our communities that it's not that hard. It was not that long ago. And I'm not here to say everybody, I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. I'm not here to say that these people I'm about to mention are terrible people. How you doing, Montarius? I'm sorry, Minister Tamer said, the deception of calling money bread and denying them both abused. Amen. Amen. Yeah. Have money, stack up your bread, but I won't give you money to buy bread. Right. However, I want you to think about the fact how abnormal it is, how much abnormal usage there is. If you don't think of something as being normal, right? There was a time when you would grow up and it was abnormal. And I was an abnormal child because I was a gamer, right? But my father would force me to go outside because it was abnormal for a child to try and spend 10 plus hours in a day playing a video game. It was abnormal. It's not right. Like, you need to be in the sunlight. You need to feel pain. You need to be in the mud. You need to go on the merry-go-round, right? Like, you need to go down the slide. You need to play football, contact football. You need to play rough basketball to where you don't call fouls. Like, you need to be around some men who do those things. I was 6'5.5". I was tall. I need to be around grown men and play with them because at the early age, I was just as tall. So ball with them and get thrown around and learn what it is. And you little skinny child, that's all right. Like, learn what it is. Pick yourself up. Dust yourself off. Get up. Try again. Try harder. Don't give up. Right? That was a normalcy. Now, children can't beat a video game and are destroying televisions. It's a normalcy, but it's really abnormal. It has become normal to live in the abnormal. It has become normal to do things that would kill your community. It is normal to do things that kill brain cells. It is normal, not just so normal to do it. It is normal to lift it up. So you said, "Yep," but what's all there to eat? You eat bruises and all. Telling this in Australia too. You talking about in sweeping and stuff. Sweden. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. I was saying Switzerland. I knew that was wrong. Uh, they're building glass houses so that you can view your movements. Hmm. And why does someone need billions of dollars in their lifetime to allow people to starve? Yeah. Like, by the way, I don't care if people have billions of dollars. Let people be billionaires. But Bill Gates, if you own all the land and then you're talking about see, Peep Game, how much land did they say he owns? Didn't they say Bill Gates owes 200,000, 300,000 acres of land? Right. I want you to see there's we become we if we're not careful and we let abnormal usage become the norm, which it has, then we fall into idiocy or just straight up lack of intel, lack of information, which causes us to be ignorant. I want you to think about this. Next time somebody tells you this, you know how people keep saying there's no land? You know, we have an overpopulation. The earth is overpopulated. Bill Gates, you own 300,000 acres of land and you don't make sure people eat. How in the world is the earth overpopulated? Like, somebody help me. You hear what I'm saying? Like, Bill Gates, you own 300,000 acres of land and nobody can eat, but you're telling Africans that they should make sure they get into abortions and should limit the amount of children that they have when you own 300,000 acres of land. How is there an overpopulation problem? Are you catching what I'm saying? Thanks for being part of the community, Mother Group. Like, you own, once again, Bill Gates. Let's stop taking this stuff and thinking that spiritual means we have to be so mystical that we can't be practical. Bill Gates, you own 300,000 acres of land, but you're telling me that there's no food for anybody. You got people believing they're supposed to eat locusts. You say that bugs are going to become a source of food because we're going to run out of meat, but you have enough meat and enough cows and enough fake meat, by the way, too, to where you're feeding people at McDonald's and Burger King and all that, talking about over 1 million customers served and over 1 billion customers served now. And over that, you remember 1 million was a big deal? It was 1 million customers, then it was like 100 million customers, now over 1 billion. Now you got all this stuff, and you don't even serve real food. You're telling me that real food is growing out there, but you won't even use your land to make sure people eat. But you eating. You hear what I'm saying? Like, how do you own 300,000, 200,000, whatever? I don't care if it's 100,000 acres, whatever. How do you own all that land? Now, peep game. This is something that a lot of people don't know. Once again, because we're so into the mystical that we're not into the practical. All right. Hear what I'm about to tell you. This is just straight practical. This is just straight math. Right? You ready for this? I've said this before on here, so some of you've heard this before. Allow me to say it again. And thank you to those who are coming over from the podcast. We appreciate you coming on to TikTok and YouTube. Peep game. All right? Peep game. You ready for this? I could take the whole earth. They say there's 8 billion people. They say there's 8 billion people on the planet. Oh, sorry about that, Miss Matt. Well, save it. See if you can watch it on YouTube with the Wi-Fi or something later on. Don't waste all the stuff you need on us. Right? Right? But let's say there's 8 billion people. That's what they tell us. There could be way more. We never know. But they say there's 8 billion people on the planet. What's that? Fall? Okay, thank you, Fall Into. Appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? So you ready? 8 billion people on the planet. We could take 3 counties in Florida and put everybody in 3 counties in Florida. 8 billion people on the planet. We could do it. They tell you the whole earth is overpopulated. Now, granted, though, if I'm going to be honest, I see you, Miss Mac. If I'm going to be honest, right? Yeah, the math ain't mathing, right? Yeah, check this out. If I'm going to be honest, that does mean all 8 billion would have to be shoulder to shoulder. So that would not be comfortable. So what does that mean? What if I were to give you more than just 3 counties in Florida and I gave you the whole state of Florida? 8 billion people. If 8 billion people can fit shoulder to shoulder in Florida, then surely 8 billion people can fit in the whole state of Florida. 3 counties, versus the whole state. But some people will say, well, that's not enough. I say, okay, cool. Granted, maybe it's not enough. What if I gave 8 billion people the entire East Coast and let everything else in nature be? And the only time we go out into nature is to grow something or get something that grows naturally and use it for food. But somebody would say, well, that's still not enough. Even though there'd be long stretches of time, you wouldn't even see anybody. Somebody might still say that's not enough. Okay, granted, maybe that's not enough. What did I give you? All of the United States of America. If you want, throw Alaska. I'm just even thinking 48 states, but throw Alaska in that bad boy. Throw Puerto Rico in there. Throw Kauai or Hawaii in there. Right? Throw whatever you want in there. Throw whatever you want in there. And somebody would still be out here because you're used to abnormal uses. So I'm like, there's no way. But I literally just told you I could take 8 billion people and put them in 3 counties in Florida, shoulder to shoulder. I could then give them the whole state of Florida and you'd be all right. I could give you from Florida all the way up to Maine, every state. Right? That's Florida. That's Georgia. Forgive me if I missed some, but that's Florida. That's Georgia. That's South Carolina. That's North Carolina. That's Virginia. Hear what I'm telling you, how much space there is on this planet. That's Maryland. Throw Washington D.C. in there if you want, right? Throw West Virginia in there, even though Virginia and West Virginia used to be the same thing. So we can go ahead and make we can cheat a little bit. Let's say that's part of it too, right? Throw I said Maryland. Throw Pennsylvania in there. Throw New York in there. Throw Rhode Island in there. Throw Massachusetts in there. Throw Maine up in that piece. Throw Delaware in there. Can't forget Delaware. 8 billion people. Now, let me just go ahead and give you 50 states and a territory. I mentioned the territory. I didn't even mention all of the territories. I just said one territory. And let everything else grow. Let the animals be what they need to be, and only use what you need. And even if you have the whole United States, there's a bunch of stuff that grows here that you don't have to overuse. Especially if you get to a place where you recognize that it's not healthy to have 7, 8 meals a day, which some people have, because you'll have breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, snacks, midnight snack, and then you got to eat something extra because of that workout. You only need one meal. It's just you're giving your body a chance to have one meal. So you don't even know how to treat your body correct. Your body only needs to eat one meal. It doesn't need all that extra stuff. It just needs one. That's all it needs is one meal, but you're giving your body everything else. I'm sorry, I'm trying to sit here and see if I can get this thing charging, but it's not charging the way I needed to charge. Try this one more time. If not, we're gonna have to get ready to take our leave today. Let me see. Yeah, it's not charging. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to take our leave pretty soon, and it's family day anyways. So we make sure we do that. But I'm just telling you, right? Amen. 300,000 people that live in the U.S. alone. Question for you: anybody been to Montana? Let's be a part of community RJV. Anybody been to Montana before? Anybody been to Iowa before? Anybody been North Dakota, South Dakota? You ever rode down certain spots in Cali, in VA, Virginia? Anybody ever been to places in Georgia and Florida and Alabama where there's not even dirt road? I mean, there's not even roads. Not even dirt roads sometimes. But if there are roads, they're gonna be dirt, and you don't see nobody for a long time. Go to Nevada. You're gonna go down places where you don't see anything. Like if you don't have gas in your car, right? And you only got a quarter tank of gas or a half tank of gas, and you think you're gonna make it certain places in Nevada, you are sadly mistaken. Right? All this space. And then they're gonna look you in your eye. And then when you start visiting other countries, it becomes even more clear. where you see how much space there is, all the space that's here, and then they're gonna look you and I in the eye, and they're gonna say we have an overpopulation problem. Like I've gone through Iowa. Iowa ain't nothing but cornfields. It's like flatland, cornfields, rams, things like that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see a little stadium somewhere, and then you keep going. Go to Colorado, right? My wife and I did Denver, right? We went to Denver. Go to Denver. One of the worst places I've been to, by the way, as far as homeless people on the planet. Another example of abnormal usage. We tell people that we're this great place and this, and when I went to give them money, same thing. People that live there, please don't give them money. They ask for money all the time. If you give them money, they'll think that we're going to give them money. I mean, like, wild. And everywhere we went, like we were eating outside. Like it was one of those places I felt kind of bad. Like I liked the atmosphere of the place we were at, but you literally were outside and you would look outside, there'd be homeless people scattered outside, and you sitting there eating in front of them. Like it's a wild thing. That happens. One of the places I saw that happen in DC. DC, you'd be walking somewhere, be a homeless man knocked out in the street in the sun, burning up to death. Nobody checking on him to see if he's all right. And right next to him, you had the elite eating at restaurants. Right. But anyways, Colorado, Denver, went there. Ain't nothing around the city of Denver. Like we went like an hour, 2 hours out to get to another place to look at what was going on there or whatever. Ain't nothing going on in Denver. You said San Diego to Top Crescent City, 19 to 20 hour drive. Or ride. I didn't know that. Right. I don't think I've ever done San Diego before. Right. But this is, or I have never done San Diego before, excuse me, as far as my knowledge. But like this is, we're not even aware. We're not even aware. Like we get told this stuff. Like there's so much land out there, but you're so used to abnormal usage, abnormal terms, overpopulation, right? But you don't even live. There's not even that many places to live. I got to drive an hour to get from one city to the next, but you're saying it's populated. Oh, in Philly, there was a man sleeping in the heat vent. Yeah, we just went to Philly. What was that? January. We came through Philly. We got a few people over in Philly. But you see, this stuff like people don't recognize. Like even when you talk about these big cities, people act like people think New York State is the same as New York City. New York City is the 5 boroughs. It's completely different than the state. The rest of the state is like land. Is basically land, farm. Upstate New York ain't like New York City. You said the Denver airport is a crazy rabbit hole to go down. Yeah, I don't really remember the airport. I remember we went someplace where it was like a map of the world or something like that we were on in one place. It's supposed to be, they say it's supposed to be like the nicest airport or something in the United States of America. I didn't see all that. It's definitely not the biggest, right? ATL is the biggest. At least ATL is the biggest one I can remember going through. I don't really do airports anymore. End up traveling by car pretty much everywhere now, if we can. But long story short, like you go up there, it's not. But you're so used to abnormal usage that somebody who doesn't recognize will think, oh yeah, New York is New York City. No, like New York State is vastly different. Matter of fact, I know they want you to believe New York City or New York State is a blue state. And maybe, I don't know, I don't pay attention. So maybe when they voted for Biden versus Trump, maybe it came up blue. I don't know. I will tell you that racism is rampant in New York State. Right? When we make our way back up there, I don't know when the next time is we'll be up there, fam. Those of you who are up there, but next time we come up there, like I promise you, we ain't staying nowhere like outside of certain places because we know that racism is rampant up there. Straight up. Right? But we don't, but we get something fed to us that's abnormal, right? We've been fed so much abnormalcy as we get ready to close, right? That we believe that our faith and our bodies are abnormal, right? As we get ready to take our leave, like we think that our faith and our very own bodies, which is supposed to be our temples, we believe that they are abnormal. They're the problem. That's why people come on here. Oh my goodness, you're just gonna let your hair stay like this and that. Well, I mean, when you go to your corporate gig and you got that man, that somebody else, he gonna grow his hair out, and he gonna let his beard grow and stuff, and you gonna say, "Oh, he looks like a Viking." Well, why is it wrong for me to look like me? You see what I'm saying? Like abnormal usage puts you in a really bad position. If I say Yashva is the way, the truth, and the life, why is it that you're using something that means half man, half Zeus? Right? You're so used to abnormal usage that it actually is difficult for us to say, I'm going to make a decision to stand up for myself and my culture and my people. Amen. Blessings to you, Sister Mary. Right? Like it's actually abnormal for me to say I'm going to stand up for myself and my people and my culture. It is actually abnormal usage, but we're used to doing that. Right? We're used to abnormal usage. Right? Just because you have animals that stay inside doesn't mean that's normal. You hear what I just said? Just because you have pets, just because you have animals that stay inside, it does not mean that that's normal. Why am I saying that? Because just because you've been made to be a pet and been used as a pet doesn't mean that that's normal. You know, pets are things you take ownership over. Like this is how society deals with pets. You take ownership over these animals. Hear what I'm saying? You take animals from their nature, from their natural state. You bring them inside of a home, right? And then you own them. You teach them, and you say they're like my children. In this Eurocentric society, that's how that works. Salah, right? Thank you, Holy Spirit, because that's a bar. Like that's how that works. Is you take something that's natural, you put it in something that's not natural, you make yourself its master and its owner, and then you say, because of those things, it is like my child. Such is the Bible, such is the diaspora. That's what they do. It is not natural for it is not natural for an anaconda to be in a cage. And then when the anaconda does what comes natural to it, we say something's wrong with the anaconda, kill the anaconda. It is not natural to have a wolf. You called it a dog now, but it's not natural for a wolf to think that human beings are its pack rather than other wolves. Thank you, Sister Deja. It is not natural. It is not natural. Yeah, some of them turn, some of the animals turn. It's not natural for lions and tigers, whether they be white or otherwise, to be used on the stage in front of people. And then when one mauls somebody and changes their way of life, we say, "Wow, I can't believe that tiger did it." It seemed like he was in love with the tigers, and tigers loved him. That tiger's not designed for that. You have to take them out of their nature, and you have to put them in civilization. See, when somebody looks at me and they say something about me as uncivilized, I begun to take that as a compliment because I recognize that civilization is just somebody's way of saying that um, you basically act like I want you to act, and we must come out of the abnormal usage that says that you are a pet. You are not a pet. Time over for I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work this job and do this, and then they're gonna pat me on the head and say, "Great job." Have me go on my belly or go on my back, rub my belly, and say, "Here's what I'll feed you. Here's your treat. You've helped me make $200 million this year. Here's your treat, a six figure, $100,000." And all of a sudden, somebody says, "Wow, you make six figures. You make them 200 million. That's your value. It's 200 million. You're not in an equal partnership. You're a pet. If you want to stay in their system, this is why we suggest that you not stay in the world, but come out of it. You can be in the world, but not of it. You can be in the system, the cosmos, KOSMOS, but not of it. Right? If you're in a relationship where you're a pet, that's a problem. Well, my wife will she'll give me a little treat. Yeah, Come on, somebody. Like my wife, she'll give me a little treat as long as I do this and blah, blah, whatever. Now, I'm not saying she should just be doing whatever and you don't do anything. You need to make sure she feels secure. But to be in this thing where it's like, okay, well, every once in a while, if I just do all these things, okay, she'll let me have blah blah or whatever. Like he's not a pet. You're not a pet. Come out of that. Hey, a little treat. And you know what? Like because they're in heat, they know you're an animal, so you're in heat. Oh, okay, well, while they're in heat, all I got to do is, I'll just treat them as such or whatever. You're not a pet. But this society has us thinking that we're pets. We'll take your Bible, we'll take your word, we'll take your language, and we'll change everything and say that it's ours or whatever, and we will take ownership. We'll emasculate you. While they're telling you about being men and stuff like that or whatever, they tell you that your men are toxic. But then they tell you that they, I was well. I'm not gonna go into the Ashkenazi Khazarian thing because we got to get ready to take our leave, right? But I was somewhere the other day, and they know when you step in and you're yourself and you're who you're called to be. Oh wow, cool. There's a red robin over here and a blue robin. I haven't seen a blue robin in a long time. If it comes closer, I'll try to see if I can let y'all see it. It's pretty. I haven't seen one before. I don't think I've seen one this close before. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna leave it alone though. I know the second I get up to try and take a picture or something and let y'all see it, it'll run away. Anyways, though, um, it's a lot of stuff that has to happen, and it's your culture, it's your Bible, it's your version, it's your belief system, it's not your universal law, but it's universal law, kingdom law, maritime law of admiralty, common law of first mention, all these different things, natural law, private and public law, biblical law. The list goes on and on. And people are out here telling you that while you got to go out to the street and obey the traffic signs, right, and the traffic lights and everything else, they tell you and I though that we're not supposed to be obedient to law. Like you got to get in a place to where they're literally, fixing you. That's what they call it with parents, right? They say, or not with them. Well, they say that the pet is like their child, but then they fix the child. They say you are somebody that's like family to them, but then they fix you. Even physically, ladies, like, black women, you're the ones getting um your ovaries and stuff and your uterus and everything snatched out. Percentage wise compared to other people, you number one on the list. They trying to do it in Africa, they trying to do it in South America. You're the one that's dealing with endometriosis and all these other things on levels that nobody else is. And they fixing you. Then they finish fixing you. Brothers, they're the ones trying to tell you to make sure that you can't have babies anymore. They're out here fixing you and saying that now that makes you more fit. That doesn't make me for more. That doesn't make me more fit. Sorry. That does not make me more fit. It means I'm a pet. And it's time for us to stop being other people's pets. It's abnormal usage to treat a human being like an animal. Yet that's what we do here. Yeah, my wife says the hysterectomy is an epidemic. And it's not even necessary. People taking out people's gallbladders and stuff, not even necessary. People taking out people's pancreas and stuff, not even necessary. People tell me we're gonna take out one of this. You got two kidneys, you got two lungs. We'll just take one, right? Or to fix somebody else, take out your kidney and give it to somebody else, so you'll have health issues for the rest of your life too. They're treating you like pets. They declaw pets. They take pieces of them off because this pet that's like your child, you need this pet to be as acceptable as possible. Right? You need this pet to be as acceptable as possible. So we'll take your claws off. We got to make sure that we shave you. Your hair can't, your fur can't grow the way it's supposed to or whatever. Because if you were out in the wild, your stuff would take care of itself. But since you out here, we keep you in a cage, we keep you in a house and stuff. You're not able to actually have things happen the same way. Matter of fact, now we breed pets to make sure that they don't shed all over the house. So I can't have a pet that sheds. So I'd rather have a pet that can't protect itself from the sun and is going to get hurt and going to have issues. But hey, at least I can own it. and it'll be all right for me, and I won't have to worry about allergies. I don't have to worry about the side effect of dealing with what the animal is actually designed to be. That's how they look at you, right? I'm gonna take out this part of the Bible. I'm gonna remove this verse. I'm gonna take out the name of the Most High because I don't have to deal with it. It can be in my house. You know, like grandmama used to do for a lot of us. Grandmama got that Bible that's been on the coffee table, and that thing was dusty and everything, but it's still on John 3:16. It's been there since before you were born. It's gonna be there after you after they pass. And out of respect for grandmama, because you got to keep that generational curse going, you gonna have the same thing. Out of respect for grandmama, you're gonna make sure that you keep it open in John 3:16. Because pets, when they're born, they give away a lot of the babies and stuff, but the babies that they do decide to keep, or the pet or the offspring they decide to keep, guess what they do? They make sure that the offspring has to be trained too, and has to be declawed too, and has to make sure that they are fixed too, and all the same things. They have to learn how to be obedient to be at the vet rather than to make sure. Like, do you know, if you have an animal that's out in the wild, the animal knows, like, if I'm sick, it might eat stones. You know why? Because it knows stones are heavy in minerals. So you have animals that don't eat. You have animals that don't ever eat vegetables. They're carnivores. Yet, wait a minute, I'm going through some stuff. You know what? I'm gonna eat a vegetable. Lions will be out there eating some grass sometimes. You're like, well, how is that lion eating grass? And scientists are dumbfounded. I can't believe that I saw a lion today eating grass. Well, it's sick and knows it needs to heal itself. You know, doesn't matter what kind of animal. Crocodile. You can go all the way over to another place. Alligator. You can go look at another place down South America. Alligator gar. You can go, over to the gars that are over in India, etc. Like, you can go wherever you want, or in Mongolia even. Like, they comprehend. They know enough that when it's time to heal, they heal a specific way. You and I are the ones that are treated like pets. Animals in the wild, they heal themselves, and they live longer in the wild than they live in captivity. I know everybody tries to reverse it because they wanted you and I to believe that zoos were okay, right? And they wanted to say that, like y'all, if y'all seen the thing about the killer whales, blackfish, and all that, they want you to believe that was okay, and they want you to believe that aquariums are okay. And look, I go to them from time to time. They're nice and everything. It's a great way to show my children an experience that they won't have. That's why they wanted you to think the circus was okay, and these lion tamers are okay, and all these different things. The reality is that it was never okay, and those animals deal with real issues. And by the way, how you gonna be mad at a killer whale that kills people when you change? Well, first of all, I don't know if you can change the name of something that you didn't name, but it was an orca. At least that's the one we like to use now, and we like to use killer whale. Well, it's a killer whale, and if you're gonna lock it up where it doesn't kill things, what do you think it's gonna kill if the only thing around it is you? Yes, he's a freeform. I guess that's what people call it, freeform, right? They treat you like a pet, and then they get mad. They put you in a position to where you start killing, and then they're like, "Why are you killing?" They put you in a position to where Chicago, that was made by a black man. They take it and they deconstruct it and construct it in a certain image or whatever, and they put all the black people in a place and redline them and put in a position to where they hurting and stuff like this. They never give them a chance to heal, and then they have the hurt, raise the hurt, and hurt people, and then they say, "I can't believe that black people are killing in Chicago." Then they get black people, right? Because not all skin folk is kinfolk, to come out, and they make sure, usually a black woman, but definitely black men coming up now and saying the same thing, and they'll get them to come out and say, "Stop talking about racism if you won't talk about what's going on in Chicago." What's going on in Chicago wouldn't happen if there wasn't racism. Not saying nobody would ever kill anybody, but the extent of stuff that's going on, we know why that stuff exists. We know how it came into existence. We know why it came into existence. We know. We know how that came to be. Yeah, red herring, if you will, right? We know how that came to be. You said it's more like human hate, not racism. That needs to be the new term, bro, or the new term. I mean, racism is a system in which competition is something that's in place. The competition became based off of color when people saw that black people could be in the sun longer than other people. Therefore, now racism has become about color. If you're going to say that color has nothing to do with it and hate is hate, sure, hate is hate, but hate based off of a white person hating a white person, a black person hating a black person, or a white person hating a black person still needs to be addressed, period. And if that happens to fall into a line where black people are being hated on by certain people because of the color of your skin, I will not deny that that exists. Now, if you want me to say that that should not be our only focus, I agree with you. And we should be 100% accurate with that. But we should be 100% accurate with that. The term holy, if you want to talk about a term, the term holy should put a W before, we should put a W before that H. Be whole, be one, be olive, be alive, be consistent in it. So if it's a white person, like I talked about earlier before you probably got on, if it's a white person in England who's still in Ireland and trying to call it Northern Ireland, and somebody in Ireland says, hey, I don't like the way that they've treated us over hundreds of years, and on top of that, you're still in my place and you're misrepresenting us, this is not cool, I would call that racism. I would be whole in using the term racism because according to the social construct, right, because it is a social construct, but it's something that affects people for real, I must comprehend it through the lens of the person being oppressed, not just the oppressor who's trying to tell me, hey, don't worry about anybody. I'm not saying you're the oppressor. I'm saying that that's oppressor speech, which is fine because that's their culture and being able to deal with it. But I'm not going to be like, yo, the oppressor says we should be careful about calling them a racist. I mean, I get it. By the way, I don't even use terms the way that you do. So once again, racism is a system of competition and it's become based off of color. Well, racist is actually supposed to be somebody who's proficient in competition or proficient in their social construct. So a black person who is a racist should actually be great towards everybody. A white person who is a racist should be great towards everybody. Like a flautist should be proficient at the flute, right? And a pianist should be proficient at the piano, right? And a scientist should be proficient in science. Well, a racist should be proficient in their competition or in their race. But I'm not going to act like there's not a problem with people being marginalized, mistreated, and misrepresented because of the class or even the social construct that they fit within. To act like it doesn't exist and to say that we're going to go ahead. See, I'm about using terms holistically. So if we want to use the term, right, that if we want to use the term human hate, well then don't hate the human being based off of their color, because hating the human being, matter of fact, if we're going to use the term human, say I'm about like, let's be realist, the term human doesn't even mean what we think it means. It means hue man. If you're talking about hue, that's color and spirit, which is why scientists, not black scientists, not Kofi, but some scientists, I don't agree with it. I'm telling you what they teach. Some scientists teach you that you cannot even be a human being with no hue, because it's a man, which means spirit, and hue, which means a certain color. Or if you go by the actual word humus, humus actually means dark, rich, nutrient earth with a spirit inside. However, everybody that exists is melanated and comes from the same human source, so we should still treat them all as human beings. But we should be holistic and get back to what words actually mean, and we'll probably have a lot less issues no matter what term we want to use, right? No matter what term we want to use. But once again, here's another honest part of the discussion as well. Let's keep, like, when you're talking about we should make this new term, how about we make what is and not have to keep redefining terms and use what's fine, right? How about we leave what's fine? We're going to leave what's fine. We're going to stop defining it, breaking down what's fine, and leave it where it is. Okay. So if we're going to talk about racism, let's do this, right? If we're going to talk about a system of oppression, let's do this. If it's oppression, then I'm gonna call you out for it. If it's oppression because you're a black person that mistreats somebody because they're black, I will call you out for it and deal with it in the confines, within the constructs that have gotten us to that place. If you're a white person that does it to a white person, if you're a Latino person that does it to a Latino person, etc., right? However, if you're a white person that does it to a black person and you're doing it because that person is black, I will call you out for it. And I will use the term that is necessary, which is the social construct of racism. Because we got to get outside of facts without context or context without facts, right? So yeah, if somebody's doing something involved in racism, right, in Russia, go over to Russia and see how Jews are treated, right? I don't like the fact that there are Jews out there doing things to people of color that is not cool, but it's not cool that there are Jews that are over in Russia and Russians are killing them just because they're Jews. That is racism, right? Right. But to say but when somebody comes, see, and we're afraid of it because we're used to what we're used to, like we were talking about today, we're used to Um, um, why am I forgetting the theme of the day? We are used to dealing with abuse. And so abuse literally means abnormal usage. Thank you, Bree. You called it too. Abnormal usage, right? So abnormal usage, abuse, is when somebody abnormally uses something, including terms, right? So when I say racism, I don't abuse terms. I don't abnormally use it. I know that race is a competition. That's what we started off on, right? Full circle. So thank you for bringing us full circle because I guess you weren't on in the beginning. Going back to full circle, right? Race started off as a competition, and you have to realize that the abuser grew up in abuse and therefore thinks that instead of them being abused, they will be the abuser. They know that it might be wrong, right? But they're living this cognitive dissonance that says, in order for me not to be abused, I must abuse others, which means that I have to be okay with abuse and not okay with abuse at the same time, right? So if somebody abuses somebody, even if it's because you think it's kill or be killed, dog eat dog world, stuff like that, dog eat dog world, whatever. If that's what you feel, then you are abusive. And it's not just something you will do to me, but you will abuse your wife. That is why feminism exists. Feminism is not for people of color. It is not for black women. Feminism is for white women that didn't get their cut in all the racism. They were supposed to get a percentage. They were promised. They said, just keep being this, just keep being subservient. And what happened, they realized that, wait a minute, you don't like me either. You just use me. Now, white women have started to say feminism. And then other people had to come out and say, stop talking about feminism and saying it's for all of us. It's not. So they started talking about womanism and things of that nature because they said you're not including all of us. And some people even say womanism is a joke. The Me Too movement, a lot of black women have came out and said, hey, I like this, but we don't get paid and we're the most educated. What you gonna do for us? And so we can act like the social constructs don't exist, but to do so is dishonest. And I've gotten past being dishonest. I told y'all before, I used to be a great liar. And so anytime I have a choice to lie, I've done it a couple times. Even I'd say the last time was probably 7 years ago or whatever was when the last time I was involved in lying, right? But I mean, I used to, and I was trying my best to get out of it. Then I was better, but that was my default. So I still was telling a couple lies here or there, right? But I've gotten to a place in my life to where I cannot tell these lies, right? Especially when it comes towards our people getting better. To act like something doesn't exist, right? I can say all day, you know, um, it doesn't matter that and people gaslight, right? So I say this brick wall is doing harm. This is what people do. We're gonna leave on this, right? This is just about 3 hours we're coming up on, so we're gonna take our leave on this. Thank you to everybody for being on. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya at Bloom and Flourish on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest. Last thing, you ready for this? This wall right here is hard, right? If I tell you this brick wall is hard, for somebody to say, well, this brick wall is hard, and I say, well, this brick wall is hard. Somebody says, yeah, but you know what? It doesn't matter that brick wall is colored brick red. Okay, but this brick wall is hard, right? This brick wall is hard. Somebody says you should keep hitting it, though. You should keep interacting with it, but it's hard. It's gonna hurt my hand. If I keep hitting it, it's gonna hurt my hand. Well, it doesn't matter though. I mean, it doesn't matter what color. I don't even see a wall. I don't see walls. Walls don't exist. But it hurts, right? It's causing damage. I don't know if y'all can see it, but it's causing damage to the hand, right? But you know, keep on hitting it though. It's fine. It's just a wall. Don't call it this. Don't call it a wall. Matter of fact, we'll just call it a boundary. Well, after a certain amount of time, maybe I should find a way to just not deal with that boundary, unless I got the tools to bust through it. Right? Yeah, you said leave the wall be, just plain and simple, right? And so if there's a brick wall in society that's up that says that my people aren't going to be treated with respect, I'm not going to keep hitting it. At some point, I'm going to just leave it alone entirely. I've been doing fine talking to y'all right in front of it. It's not like I don't have to see it. It's not like I had to be disrespectful. It's not like I tried to knock it down, right? I've been talking to you guys in front of it all this time, back to it and everything. But it'd be crazy for the brick wall, even though I know this is an inanimate object, right? We're talking about just using this as an illustration, right? It'd be crazy for the wall to get upset with me because I wouldn't turn around and interact with it. Right? But that's what happens. The society is built up to hurt you. You say, you know what? I'd rather not deal with the hurt. I can just go ahead and go another route without having to deal with a brick wall. And the society yells at you and says, how dare you turn your back on the society? I'm not going to lie anymore. It doesn't mean that somebody that's hard that has a hard heart like a brick wall can't become greater. It doesn't mean that person can't turn and become something that's easier on my hand. It doesn't mean that they can't soften up. Real talk though, where it is now, it hurts. And after a while of seeing my family and seeing generations and seeing my parents and seeing a whole bunch of people who have been bloodied out here, you know, you know, my hand was all bloody from punching on the concrete, ghetto boys, right? I seen cats hitting the brick wall for too long and trying to figure out why they're not getting anywhere in life. It's probably because you're hitting the brick wall. You know, at a certain point, I'm not worried about it. Does it mean that I will never have to see a white person? I shouldn't ever go to a store, or that I'll never interact with a white person again? No, but does it mean that it's okay for me to have some land and go outside? And when I look to my left, I see somebody that shows me love. And when I look to my right, I see somebody that shows me love. And on top of that, I look to my left and my right, and we believe in the same thing. Nothing wrong with that. Salah just means pause and think about it. That being said, thank you everybody. My phone is about to go out, and so is the MacBook. So we appreciate everybody for being on. Thank you again. Keep us in prayer. I'm pretty sure we'll be trying to get on the road tomorrow at some point. So pray for us. I don't know if we'll be coming live from here, or I'll be in the vehicle, or maybe I'll be somewhere else. But keep us in prayer. We thank you. We appreciate you. We honor you. Tomorrow, early rising prayer. Enjoy your time. Today's my family day, so I definitely hope that you enjoy your time with your family as well. And we look forward to talking to you guys again soon. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. If you're on YouTube, look in the description box to be able to get in contact with us and find out more about what we do all around the world, and see if you'd like to help or even take classes or just figure out how you can do what we're doing where you are. And if you're on TikTok, go to where it says info, get a little more information about us, and then, or bio, excuse me, get more info about us, and then look where it says website. Click on that. That's our link tree. You should be able to find out more information about us. Those who are going to be part of Early Riser Bible Study tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll see you then. And for those who join us, we are on every day, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. And we're on every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. Tonight is the last Sunday of the month. And so since it is the last Sunday, my wife and I will be on at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time for a special session. We'll try to set it up to where we can have this be on the live setting and on the podcast for you guys. So prayerfully you guys be able to join us. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys again. Feel free to look at different things on Patreon and all those different things as well. Thank you for your support. We look forward to talking to you soon. And as always, please remember, Yashalel, that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Peace.